3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor, 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is already a Wednesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and of course, as always, streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. 4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. All righty, we got a monster show for you today. A lot of guests stopping by. Wyndham Clark, PGA Tour golfer. He's going to join us 40 minutes from now. Evan Washburn, who was on the sidelines for the AFC Championship game last weekend for CBS, will stop by at 4 p.m. Eastern. Ryan Hot Take Hickey will join us in studio at 4:40 p.m. Eastern time. And you know what? I just realized this. That could be maybe the greatest segment and the greatest hour of hair in the history of our network. Evan Washburn may be the only person in the media world that has better hair than Hot Take Hickey. You know, I would think 3 people are elite when it comes to hair in the sports radio, sports media industry. The first 3 people I think of, Evan Washburn, Ryan Hot Take Hickey, and then also Adam Shine. Adam Shine has some good hair as well. So if you love hair, which I know our YouTube chat does, Evan Washburn at 4, Ryan Hot Take Hickey at 4:40 today on the show. And then Shawne Merriman's going to stop by to kick off the final hour at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific time. But let's start off with the big news from last night, and that is the way that it was reported, which I think is really misleading, that Mike McCarthy has taken his name out of the running for the New Orleans Saints job. Now, here's my question. Was he ever really in it? We kept on hearing about how they were going to talk and how they were going to do an interview. And according to Nick Underhill, who covers the New Orleans Saints, he said, can confirm Mike McCarthy removed himself from the search. Saints never scheduled anything with him. The 2 sides have planned to talk this week, and it never happened. So, when Joe Brady takes himself out of the running for the Saints job, I believe it. Because I do think Joe Brady can become an attractive name on the market, because whether you like hiring this way or not, he fits the mold and the trend of 2 guys that were hired this year in Ben Johnson and then Liam Cohen. Right? Ben Johnson was the name, and then Liam Cohen for innovative offensive minds was the next name, and then Joe Brady was 3rd. So if Joe Brady was 3rd, wouldn't you want to reset the market next year, and maybe you could be 1, or even if you're not 1, you probably could jump up to 2. And let's be real, Joe Brady, you never know how many chances you're going to get to be an NFL head coach. I get it's 1 of 32 jobs with the New Orleans Saints, and you know that area very well, clearly, that organization very well. But are you dying to go work for the New Orleans Saints when they don't really have much to sell you on? I thought that was a savvy move by Joe Brady to take himself out. But when you look at the other names for the Saints job, like Mike Kafka, I think is a backup name. Mike Kafka should not be an NFL head coach starting in 2025. He shouldn't be. I ultimately believe it's going to be Kellen Moore. But what I really think did happen here is, for whatever it was, and I think it's more so the Saints didn't really want him, and McCarthy was interested in the job. Because remember, immediately when McCarthy and the Cowboys did break up, the first 2 names and the first 2 teams that emerged were the Bears and also the Saints. And I don't think that was, the Bears are going to leak out his name or the Saints are going to leak out his name. I think that was the McCarthy camp taking a look at what was available, and clearly they wanted the Bears job, and then they would also be interested in the Saints job. But as this process did go on, I tend to believe that the Saints really weren't that interested in Mike McCarthy, and McCarthy said to himself, you know what? I'm a little bit of a sympathetic figure right now. The Cowboys, they keep on putting their foot in their own mouth. Let me save face here instead of taking the interview where maybe I'm not their preferred choice and I'm not their number 1 candidate. Well, no one who they hire now is their number 1 candidate, but you get the point. And instead of getting rejected, I'll say, you know what? I'm breaking up with you. You're not breaking up with me. That's how this kind of came off yesterday when you found out that Mike McCarthy has taken himself out of the running for the Saints job. I don't think the Saints were hiring him. I don't. And he got wind of that. He understood that was going to be the case. With all the other 6 jobs filling up and the Saints only one on the market, it seemed as if going into the weekend, this was going to be Kellen Moore's job to lose. And I don't think Kellen Moore is in a position like Joe Brady is to turn down the Saints job. And here's why. I don't believe Kellen Moore is as attractive of a name on the NFL market as Joe Brady would be. Because a week and a half ago, we all thought Kellen Moore was going to be the puppet that Jerry Jones would control. And instead, Jerry Jones elected to downgrade and go to a lesser puppet in Brian Schottenheimer. So for Kellen Moore, a few years ago, he was a name that was a hot name. And since then, I think people have said, we're going to pump the brakes on Kellen Moore because he's jumped around as an offensive coordinator from place to place to place. So I do think Kellen Moore will be the next head coach of the Saints. McCarthy, who is not a dummy, realized that and said, I'm going to take myself out of the running for the Saints job before it comes out that they're passing up on me, because then there's a lot of embarrassment by Mike McCarthy, because remember how this did go down. This is truly how I believe this thing did go down. McCarthy was fed up with the Joneses, Steven, and probably more so Jerry. And he thought to himself, I've done a good enough job here, right? 4 years there, 3 years of 12-win seasons. I know I've only won one playoff game. This year, the carpet got pulled out from underneath me with all the injuries, but also, let's be real, even though Jerry Jones won't admit it, Jerry Jones did not do a good job, and he wasn't all in finding a way to construct a winner in the year of 2024 in the NFL. So I think that Mike McCarthy said to himself, I'm only going to go back to Dallas if it's on my terms, because the juice really isn't worth the squeeze anymore to deal with Jerry Jones. And whether they talk contract or not, it was probably communicated that they weren't going to give him a 3, 4, 5-year extension. And in all likelihood, I would imagine, and I said this from the jump, that the Cowboys would probably offer him a 2-year extension, which means, okay, that buys you 1 year, and then you're back into, oh, there's only a year left on the contract, so either you go into that year as a lame duck coach, or they just get rid of you after next season. So that's the way that I think this thing did go down. And Mike McCarthy said, you know what? I'm Mike McCarthy. I'm a Super Bowl winning head coach. I did a good enough job here in my next chapter after leaving Green Bay and landing with the Dallas Cowboys. You know, there's 6, 7 jobs that are going to be on the market. I could probably get 4 or 5 of them. Bare minimum, I'll get one of them. And I'll go leave and go somewhere else where I'm more wanted and appreciated. And also, when you become a new hire, bare minimum, you're getting 4 years in the NFL, unless if you're like old man Pete Carroll. That didn't come off the right way, but you get the point what I'm saying, where they're only going to give Pete Carroll a 3-year contract because he's, 73 and about to turn 74 before he coaches a game with the silver and black this year. So McCarthy gambled, and I'm not going to say it didn't pay off, because who knows if he resurfaces next year. Now, I'm going to guess that if McCarthy, and he's a good relationship guy in the NFL, I will say that, but I'm going to guess that if McCarthy misses out on this cycle, I'm not going to say, and now with the Saints of the only job out there, I'm not going to say he's never going to be a coach again, but I do think a year from now it could be a miscalculation, because I don't think the stock of Mike McCarthy is really going to improve significantly. Like, the last time this happened, right, he restored his image after the split with Aaron Rodgers. He pretended to embrace analytics when we know that he really didn't. He was even open lying to Jerry Jones, and he said this in his press conference, that he went back and watched every play of the Cowboys season, and he said, oh, that was just the way that I got the job. You know, that's what I said to get the job. But I think since you already went through it one time and you already got that second chance, it's rare that you get a third chance. Even when it's fair or not, people don't look at Mike McCarthy like he's a great coach. Like, if you look at the resumes of Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, Sean Payton, and then also Mike McCarthy, they're all pretty similar, right? Tomlin won Super Bowl win. McCarthy won Super Bowl win. Sean Payton won Super Bowl win. John Harbaugh, right, with the Super Bowl. So you look at it, and you look at those guys, and it seems as if in terms of the national respect, like, people genuflect to Tomlin. People genuflect to Sean Payton. You know, people genuflect to those other names that we mentioned. When it comes to McCarthy, it's almost like, yeah, he's a good coach. But since he was with Aaron Rodgers, I think a lot more people credit Aaron Rodgers than Mike McCarthy, where we revere. And hey, Mike Tomlin had Big Ben. Sean Payton had Drew Brees. And John Harbaugh, he won a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. Those names don't belong with the other two that I just mentioned. But it's almost as if those guys are held in a higher standing. Not almost, they are held in a higher standing. And McCarthy doesn't get that public praise nationally as the other three coaches get. So since he doesn't have that cachet of the other three coaches, I don't believe he's going to be a hot commodity this time next year. And it goes back to the initial thing. In the initial decision by McCarthy to leave, I put this more on the Jones family. I do. But you look back at where both these two people are right now, let's say Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy. Did either get what they wanted this offseason? say what you want that Jerry Jones, and I say it all the time, he's all about drama and power, right? That's what Jerry Jones does. Look at his hiring history, really outside of Parcells. And I would say Wade Phillips too. In the last 20-something years, 25 years, he hires coaches that he could control. He hires coaches that probably most teams would not end up hiring. And Jerry Jones, so sure, you got a guy you can control, but you can't tell me you could be thrilled with Brian Schottenheimer. And you know how he knows it isn't the right hire? It's because he's going out of his way to try to tell everyone it's a great move. He's trying to over-justify it way too much. And it's almost a thing where you're basically trying to tell everyone, I know it's wrong, right? Everyone's saying this is a wrong hire. And he's trying to say, no, I'm going to tell you why it's right. But when he gives the explanation, I don't even think he believes that it's right. So look at that way where Jerry Jones winds up with Brian Schottenheimer and Mike McCarthy. You wind up without a job where, if you're being transparent with yourself, you pulled out of the job because you knew you weren't getting the job. And your ego thought you would at least get a job at a new 4 or 5 year contract somewhere else, and you got shut out of this cycle. So really, when I take a look at this, I would, if I was the Jones family, if they could go back, I would have just given McCarthy a 3-year extension. And I think Mike would have taken it. It wasn't a 4 or 5 year deal, which he probably wanted on an extension. For the Jones family, you didn't got to break the bank. And it basically bought you 2 more years of Mike McCarthy. Because I would rather have 2 more years of Mike McCarthy than whatever this Brian Schottenheimer deal is, 4 or 5 years. And I would have just continued with Mike McCarthy. That's what I would have done. And you know what? McCarthy, he won't say it, but there has to be some remorse as well because he wants to coach. But let's go to Adam Schefter. This just shows you how Jerry knows it wasn't the right hire. This is Adam Schefter on the Pat McAfee show. Schefter recalls just over the weekend Jerry Jones calling him to give him the story. Listen up. This is Adam Schefter.
I'm home and my phone rings, and it was Jerry Jones. And he goes on and on about how Brian Schottenheimer is nothing more than an assistant coach. He's always been an assistant coach. This is what he's done. These are his qualifications. How could people even be talking about him as a head coach? He's an assistant coach. And then he stopped on a dime. And he goes, but you know what, Adam? He's Brian the assistant no more. He's now the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And it was so funny the way that he set it all up, led to it, and then, bam, delivered the punchline of Brian Schottenheimer being the head coach.
If I was Jerry Jones and you're calling a reporter to give him the story, wouldn't you just say, hey, we're hiring Brian Schottenheimer as the next coach? Instead, he felt as if he had to justify it before with the tongue-in-cheek way. You know what it'd be like, Stu? Stu, it'd be like if I was giving you the Stuart Kovacs show, right? If I was the program director and I was like, Stu is a producer. Stu has always been a producer. Hey, Andrew Marchand, there's this guy, Stuart Kovacs. He's been a producer. He's always been a producer. He is a great producer, but producer no more. You would think I'm firing you. And then he's now the host of the show, the Stuart Kovacs Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Like, you know that it was the wrong move. No offense, Stu. Jerry Jones knew it was the wrong move, and he set it up. Yeah, no one else would have really hired this guy to make him the head coach, but we're going to do so. So that's like, Jerry just can't get out of his own way. The Dallas, I know I call him the drama Dallas choking Cowboys, but it's just Jerry Jones. With the Dallas Cowboys just can't get out of his own way. The Cowboys cannot get out of their own way with this guy running the team. And that's the bottom line. And McCarthy messed up, Jerry Jones messed up, and what a bleep show it is. This is the worst hire. I don't even know who the Saints are going to hire. I think it's going to be Kellen Moore, but it's not official yet. I will rank the Kellen Moore hire before I would rank, greater before I would rank Brian Schottenheimer. Brian Schottenheimer and Jerry Jones, it's 7 out of 7. That's what it is. It's the worst hire of this hiring cycle. All righty, Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network, 855-212-4227. We'll do a little overreaction, proper reaction on a Wednesday when we come on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
I'll tell you, the perception and the view that the YouTube chat has of Stu is hilarious to me. So we were talking about the Stuart Kovacs show, how we would want that to become a thing. And Bendozo says in the YouTube chat, Stupac, bakes and takes. That would be kind of the theme of the Stuart Kovacs show. Also, hot takes with a mellow buzz. The Stuart Kovacs show via our pal Billy Wolf. Anyway, Stu, I know that you'll be able to fire up this segment. Let's get to it. We go to a little overreaction, proper reaction.
Another NFL week is complete, which means it's another week to freak out about your favorite team. Which takes are truly crazy.
But sometimes a game can be so bad, it's almost good. You know what I'm saying? No.
And which are so crazy, they might be right.
He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's probably a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
Zach lets you know in this week's edition of Overreaction or Proper Reaction.
All righty, Stu, what do we got cooking?
All right, so as we discussed a lot on yesterday's show, Liam Cohen's first week with the Jags has been a bit of a circus, culminating in Monday's odd press conference. One thing that we learned is that owner Shad Khan admitted that the team is in no rush to hire a GM.
Can you give us a quick update on the timeline for the GM search? And, is there a end-all date because you want to prepare for the NFL draft or be prepared?
I think that date is February 28th. I believe that's the NFL mandated. I think our priority is obviously to get Liam settled in and, have him build his staff and then, start the search. But, we're hoping to be done by that date.
So overreaction or proper reaction, it's a huge mistake to wait until the end of February to hire a new GM.
I'll answer your question in just a second. Did you hear what Mad Dog Russo called Shad Khan?
I sure did.
He goes, let me tell you about this Shaka Khan. Shaka Khan. But to answer your question, would it be a huge mistake by Shad or Shaka Khan to wait until the end of February to hire a new GM? So I don't think they actually will. To be clear, I heard the whole press conference. I know we just played the audio back for you. He basically just said, we'll hire it by when we have to hire, which would be the end of February. I don't think that should take that long. If you can't figure this out until after the Super Bowl, that's a problem. But yeah, I guess I'd go more proper reaction than overreaction. Because if you literally wait until the last day of February, you're only giving yourself March and April 2 months. And legitimately 2 months, only 2 months, to get ready for the NFL draft, where you get 2 months and then some if you do so earlier. So I don't think that should be a decision that takes that long. But also remember, they weren't planning on firing Trent Baalke until a week ago. And that's why Liam Cohen's now there, even though no one will admit that. But anyway, next question.
So the Ravens offense led the NFL, averaging over 420 yards per game and scored the third most points in the league. Now Baltimore is rewarding their offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, with a new contract extension, though the team once again fell short in the playoffs. Overreaction or proper reaction, the Ravens need to change their offensive philosophy after yet another postseason failure.
I think this was talked about last year. I don't think outside of me, really anyone else said it. I think their offensive philosophy the last 2 years in the AFC Championship game and the divisional round is arrogant and stupid. That's what I think it was. Last year, they were trying to prove that they could win through the air, and they took Lamar's legs away, and they didn't run the ball enough, and they lost the game to the Chiefs. And then this past year, you have Derrick frickin' Henry and Lamar Jackson. 22 total carries for those guys? Only 22 for two of the toughest players to stop in the NFL. It's almost as if the Ravens are channeling their inner Ohio State, except it's the reverse way, where Ohio State, it was, we got to run the ball. We got to run the ball. We got to run the ball. We got to be tough. That's how we need to win games, because that's how Michigan did. And I know eventually Ohio State won the championship, but that's why they lost to Michigan this year, because they thought they had to play a certain way. And for the Ravens, there's so much conversation that they run the ball too much that people are now saying, they got to go out there and they got to throw the ball more. And it's got into their heads. Look at Jalen Hurts. I know he played well in the NFC Championship game. But people that were bitching a few weeks ago, Jalen Hurts, they don't throw the ball enough with him. Is anyone complaining now that you're in the Super Bowl? If you win, do you think anyone, regardless how you win, do you think anyone's going to call out how you won? No. Just as long as you do win, That's what all people care about. So, yeah, the Ravens need to change their offensive philosophy after yet another postseason failure. Very simple. Run the damn ball in the playoffs. So, proper reaction.
The Lions lost both their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, and offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, to head coaching jobs. Now the NFC's number 1 seed has found their replacement for Ben Johnson in Broncos pass game coordinator John Morton, who has been an NFL and college assistant for nearly 30 years. So overreaction or proper reaction, you expect the Lions offense to take a step back in 2025?
It could be a little bit, but I think the Lions as a team, I think it's going to be tough to take more of a step back than what they did this year. I get it. The regular season success was awesome, but we judge it by how far you go in the postseason. If you tell me right now that the Lions only make the divisional round next year, I'd be a little bit surprised. And also, if you're telling me, we're all down on the Lions because they lost the defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator, then you don't really believe in Dan Campbell. But then also, who else do you believe in the NFC? Like, the Eagles are going to be good for a while. The Cowboys stink. The Commanders, let's see if they can continue what they just did. The NFC North, I don't think Green Bay or Minnesota is ready to take that next step. Now, if Green Bay gets a number 1 wide receiver, it could be a different story. The NFC South doesn't have a championship team. And the NFC West, we don't even know if Stafford's going to be back. So, and the Niners should bounce back next year. So, you expect the Lions offense to take a step back in 2025? It's not going to be as crisp because they don't have Ben Johnson, but I think they'll still be really damn good. And I think that team will probably go further next year because they underachieved in the postseason this year. So I'll go proper reaction there. I'll go overreaction there.
So the Eagles are in the Super Bowl for the second time in 3 years, and owner Jeffrey Lurie is feeling himself, according to Bill Simmons.
Yeah, Ben Simmons, he wouldn't show up.
Definitely not Ben Simmons. Lurie is a finalist to purchase the...
Ben Simmons be like, this is too many words to type. I need some load management. I hit writer's block after typing the first sentence.
According to Bill Simmons, Lurie is a finalist to purchase the Boston Celtics, despite Boston and Philly being pretty bitter sports rivals. The move would be reminiscent of Sixers owner Josh Harris buying the Commanders, leading some Philly fans to be conflicted about the owner during the NFC title game. So overreaction or proper reaction, owners shouldn't own teams in rival cities.
This shows my growth as a human being. 10 years ago, I would have sounded off on this. If you have the money... and it's a different sport, right? You could own whatever teams you want. So, yes, it is bizarre when you have Josh Harris who owns the Sixers, and he could walk into Philadelphia with the Commanders and beat the Eagles, but it's not the same sport. And if you have the money, you should be able to do what you want with it. So owners shouldn't own teams in rival cities. 10 years ago, I would have said 100% a proper reaction. Now it'll go overreaction.
Senior Bowl practices began this week with the game kicking off on Saturday, though new rules allowed juniors to play in the game as well. Among those is former Bama quarterback Jalen Milroe, who discussed his goal for the week.
All I want to do is put the best foot forward, not be one-dimensional at all when it comes to my playing style, lead properly. I was able to be a 2-time captain, so I know that I won't ever get complacent, just knowing that, who I am today is going to be different than I was a year from now as I continue to go in this process. So as cliche as it is, it's all about going 1-0. It's all about getting 1% better. And if you do that, you're going to silence all the naysayers.
All right, so Mel Kiper currently has Milroe as his 4th best quarterback behind Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and Jackson Dart, while CBS lists Milroe as their number 3 quarterback. So overreaction or proper reaction, Jalen Milroe can be a legit starting quarterback in the NFL.
I think he's a second-round draft pick. I would not use a first-round pick on him. Do I think he could be a legit starting quarterback in the NFL? So you're saying basically like top 10? That, to me, is a great overreaction. And I don't know if there was a player in college football that personally I was more disappointed in this year than Jalen Milroe. Because there would be like a game like Georgia where he was on and he was awesome and that's everything that you saw. But then there's Tennessee, there's Oklahoma, there's Vanderbilt. Like games where he just looked absolutely lost. That's the problem with Jalen Milroe. You see the ceiling a little bit and you're like, wow, that's awesome. But the floor is a far fall. And not only does he just hit the floor, he hits the floor really damn hard. Like, he kind of reminds me of, like, Anthony Richardson, where in small doses, you see what he could be, but it doesn't happen enough consistently. And am I going to sit here and say that I would want Anthony Richardson as my starting quarterback? No. When Hickey was all excited at the draft about Anthony Richardson, I told him it was a mistake then. So Jalen Milroe can be a legit starting quarterback in the NFL. I have not seen enough consistency from him to warrant me to say that's a proper reaction, so I'm going overreaction.
All right, last one here. One of the most debated questions of our lifetime is who was most responsible for the Patriots' success? And that, of course, is between Tom Brady and
Players
Bill
win
Belichick.
championships. It's all about the players. All about the players.
Well, this week on the Let's Go podcast with Jim Gray, Belichick appeared to answer who he thinks is more important to the Patriots' run.
Players win games. You can't win games without good players. I don't care who the coach is. It's impossible. You can't win without good players. You know, I found out when I had Taylor and Banks and Harry Carson, Pepper Johnson, all those guys at the Giants, and same thing, you know, when we got good at Cleveland and then at New England. I mean, it's Brady, it's McGinnis, it's Vrabel. Those are the guys that won the games. Man, I didn't make any tackles. I didn't make any kicks. That was Vinatieri that made that kick in 4 inches of snow. You got to have good players.
They don't name it the Star Trophy. It's named the Lombardi Trophy.
Maybe they should name it the Brady Trophy. He won 7 of them.
So, overreaction or proper reaction, they should rename the trophy after Tom Brady.
I know many of you think and will claim I am a Tom Brady honk, which I will not deny. I do not think they should change the Lombardi Trophy to the Brady Trophy. If you want to give the Super Bowl MVP, which is named after Pete Rozelle, then I would say, yeah, if you want to call that the Tom Brady like Super Bowl MVP or something like that, that's fine with me. But I would not rename the Lombardi Trophy after Tom Brady. So they should rename the trophy after Tom Brady. I'm actually going overreaction. I just see that, Stu, you have a new defensive coordinator. I just saw that. Notre Dame is set to hire former Rutgers head coach Chris Ash as its next defensive coordinator. I know Chris Ash very well. When I used to work at that 9:20 a.m. New Jersey, he would used to always come on with us to chat a little Rutgers football. So congratulations to Chris Ash. We'll take a break, though. We'll come on back. We'll do a little golf with Wyndham Clark, who's going to join us live on the show. We'll talk TGL. We'll talk about the Ryder Cup coming up in 2025 and so much more. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with their easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressive.com. Notre Dame has several voids to fill. After going to the national championship, at least one is done, with the school hiring former Rutgers head coach Chris Ash as its new defensive coordinator. The Cavaliers have had a surprising season and lead the East and are in Miami tonight. The defending champion Celtics are right behind them and will host the Bulls. After falling to Boston in the conference finals, the Pacers got off to a slow start but have rallied and are currently 5th in the East, a game behind the Bucks. They'll host the Pistons tonight after splitting a pair in Paris. Tyrese Halliburton, glad to be back stateside.
A lot of fun, get to make some more memories with these guys. It's a group that has been together for a couple years now, so fun to make even more memories together, and glad to be back in Indiana and ready to go tomorrow.
The Knicks are the hottest team in the conference and go for their 5th in a row against Denver tonight at the Garden. The Hawks' Jalen Johnson will miss the remainder of the season to have shoulder surgery. The 23-year-old leads Atlanta in rebounding at 10 per game and was averaging nearly 19 points a clip. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining.
3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All righty, we continue. This is Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's go out to the guest line right now. Welcome into 2023 U.S. Open champion. He is here today on behalf of Blade & Bow, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, and that is Wyndham Clark with us on the Zach Gelb Show. Wyndham, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this, and how you been?
I've been good. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you coming on. Now, this sponsorship is right up my alley, and I know you got some pretty cool sweepstakes going on shortly. Tell me a little bit about the fine work that you're doing with the folks from Blade & Bow, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
Well, we're excited to announce that we're going to have a sweepstakes for one lucky guest that they get to play a round of golf with me, bring some of their friends, and then enjoy some post-round celebrations at the 19th hole and have some good Blade & Bow. So we're pretty excited about this. It's going to launch next week on Monday, and people can look on social media to get more information on it. And so, yeah, we're really excited to launch this, and I'm looking forward to playing with some lucky people.
Yeah, nothing like a good round of golf and then also some good drinks afterwards and a little bit of a party. I know you were saying people could bring some friends along with them. I know when you were growing up, you went to high school with Christian McCaffrey. I know you played before with him in the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I know you are the reigning champion, as we get to see who wins it all if you could defend that crown this year. But what was that relationship like in high school with Christian?
So, to be honest, Christian, we only went 2 years together. He's a little younger than me. I was really close with his brother, Max, who's now coaching the NFL. But yeah, Christian and I had a pretty good relationship. And the fun thing is we've kept it going throughout the years. And now we have such mutual respect for each other. Obviously he's one of the best running backs. And then, my endeavors in golf, and he's gotten into golf. And so he's always asking me questions and some tips. And, but yeah, we've had a great relationship. He was so talented, not only in football, but in other sports. And we had some good banter back and forth when we played some basketball. We were both on the same team. So, yeah, it's a great relationship. I love the McCaffrey family. Been over to their house many times. So, yeah, it's really fun to see two kids from Colorado, which usually doesn't produce, I'd say the best athletes in the sports that we're playing. Produces great athletes in other sports, but, football and golf, there's not too many of them. And so it's fun that both of us went to the same school and we're both competing at the highest level.
Yeah, it's really awesome to see what both you guys have accomplished. By the way, I checked out the last few weeks, TGL presented by SoFi. I know you're a part of that, obviously. What has that experience been for in kind of this new era, new wave of golf?
Yeah, honestly, it's really fun to be part of. I will say, I've said this to many people, it's some of the most fun I've ever had playing golf. If you can even really call it golf. I mean, it's a fun game. It's indoor, it's golf, but it's not golf. And so, I love it. I think it's a blast for us to play. And I think thus far people are receiving it really well. And I think as we continue to play and get more comfortable out there, the more banter that there is. I mean, we started something completely new, right? And so there's no history, there's no formula of how to do it. And so as we get better at it, I think people are going to continue to love it. So I think it's great for golf. And, the big thing is I think it brings more eyes to the game of golf, which also helps the PGA Tour. It helps TGL. It helps all of our brands. It's a really great thing. And I'm looking for the next time I get to tee it up.
Yeah, I think it showcases your guys' personality a little bit more than a typical PGA kind of tournament. We've seen a little bit with Full Swing too, which you're well versed in, and then in this, it's a little bit more relaxed environment than your prototypical weekend.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. People always see us on TV, and part of trying to be one of the best golfers in the world is, you have to really keep your emotions at bay when you're playing, and so they only see us inside the ropes when we're really intense, and they don't really get to see the lightheartedness that all of us really have, and our the fun, the camaraderie that we have amongst players. You get to see our personalities, and I just think it's great because people always look at us like we're robots and think that we don't have anything, but then you get us in a fun social setting, you're like, oh wow, you're actually a really fun guy, or you're funnier than I thought, or whatever it ends up being. And so I think that's great for us and the fans that they get to see us in that light.
Talking to Wyndham Clark on behalf of Blade & Bow, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. What I'm most excited for this year in the golf world is obviously the Ryder Cup. I'm a Long Island kid. My sister was actually married at Bethpage Black. So that's going to be neat, and it's going to be such a fun kind of weekend. I'm assuming, obviously you want to qualify. We're all hoping that you're going to be a part of it, but that's got to be circled on your calendar, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've gotten two good tastes of team golf for Team USA, actually three now, the Olympics, Ryder Cup, and the President's Cup. And I love it. I'm addicted to it. I want to make the team every single year. And this one in particular, I've only played away games. I've never had a home game. And so, to play in the U.S. is going to be amazing. And then now you put it in New York with, an amazing sports town, really tough fans, but great fans. I just think it's going to be an amazing atmosphere. So I'm really hoping of all the teams that I make this one, because I think it's going to be great. And I'm really excited for Keegan as our captain. I think he's going to be one of our best captains yet. And so hopefully I play some great golf and I either make the team on my own play, or at least I get picked.
It's got to, you have probably so many pinch me moments already, only being 31, whether it's representing your country, winning the U.S. Open back in 2023. I'm assuming the U.S. Open was the top one for you, even though how cool of an honor it is to represent your country.
Yeah, I think any major's typically number one. Even my first win was up there as well, just kind of breaking through. But yeah, you get to these team events. Making my first Ryder Cup was amazing. Obviously, making the Olympics the biggest sporting event in the world and representing the USA was amazing. Getting my first win as a team for the President's Cup was unreal. So I've definitely checked off some boxes that, as a little kid, I hope I could do these someday. And so now, I hope I just keep going down the list and racking up the accomplishments. It'd be pretty cool.
It's cool to find out about people when they were younger. Now looking back, how accomplished you are, Wyndham Clark, in the golf world. I know your dad was a big influence in sports and getting you to play golf. Just how do you kind of reflect on relationship when you were a youngster, when you look back at what dad did for you, like all these years later?
It's amazing, especially as you get older, it's amazing to look at the sacrifices that your parents made for you. And, my dad played professional tennis, didn't quite, he made it, but didn't quite fully make it in his career. And, I think, obviously he took that hard. He wanted to make it. And so then as I progressed in sports, he definitely saw that there was potential and things that he learned that he should have done, and he instilled in me. And so it's, it's amazing to look back at young Wyndham, in the early days, hoping this would happen. And now we fast forward and it really is happening. And it's fun to share it with my dad, with my family. And so I'm just very thankful that my dad sacrificed so much, not only financially, but his own time, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears as well. I was traveling the country playing not only just golf, but basketball and other sports. And so he really paid a lot of, and I really gave a lot of his time for me. And so I'm so thankful for it.
Yeah, we're similar in age. I'm 30. So growing up, golf, it was synonymous with one person, and that was Tiger Woods. I'm just wondering, what was it like your first interaction meeting Tiger?
Well, the honest truth, the first time I met him, we were in the bathroom at the Players Championship, and I was at the urinal, and sure enough, Tiger Woods comes right next to me, and I go, "Oh my gosh!" And he goes, "Hey man, how you doing?" And then he asked what time we were playing, and I was so nervous, and so that was the first time I ever got to really meet Tiger. But then I got to play with him a couple times, and the great thing about meeting your heroes and the guys you looked up to is, especially when they exceed your expectations. And meeting Tiger was awesome. But then fast forward, the next time I saw him, he remembered my name, said, "Hey, great playing today. Had a good round that day," or something. And that little things like that really make you feel awesome, that you're not just someone that you ran into. And so that was really cool.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the bathroom encounters are the most awkward. I met Dan Patrick when I was in high school, and it's like, I'm not going to go shake your hand. I know you don't want to talk to me because you're doing your business. Yeah. That's got to be the most awkward thing, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it was definitely not how you dreamt of meeting one of your idols. But hey, it's a funny story, and he probably doesn't even remember it, but I do. And so, yeah.
Last thing I'll ask you, once again, Wyndham Clark here with us, Blade and Bow, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Just the state of golf right now. I know it was so contentious a few years ago with Live Golf and the PGA Tour. I know we don't really have any final answer on that, but how do you kind of just describe the current state? Because as a viewer, I just want to see the same golfers under one umbrella going up against one another.
Yeah, honestly, I actually think it's in a great place. I think, yes, I would love to see all the best players playing against each other. But if you look at it, we now have so many cool things in golf. I mean, golf is growing as a sport. We have this new league in TGL. We have a new league in the Live Golf Tour, and then you have the original and the PGA Tour. And if we can kind of bring it all together, I mean, I just think golf is going like this. And so I agree with you. I don't know what's going to happen, but the one thing I do like is people are talking about golf. And, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, wasn't as much chatter. And so it's pretty, if you try to turn it into a positive thing, there's a lot of chatter around golf, which is always good.
Well, he's Wyndham Clark. Good luck coming up the rest of the week at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Once again, Wyndham Clark here with us on behalf of Blade & Bow, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Wyndham, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
There we go. Wyndham Clark joining us on the show. And I was not expecting that. Like first time you met Tiger. Well, I ran into him in a bathroom. And yeah, that's a true story for me when I met Dan Patrick. When I was an aspiring broadcaster in high school, I was at a Super Bowl at the JW Marriott in Indianapolis. And I was going to the bathroom, and I turned around, and Dan Patrick was there. And it's not one of those moments you're like, hi, nice to meet you, and you start talking to someone. It's like, oh, Dan. You just say something, and then you just leave. And the first day, I worked at a Fox affiliate in Jersey. We had Dan Patrick on as a guest. And I said, Dan, I appreciate you being, I think it was John Starks, and then we had Dan Patrick on. So he's the second guest that we had. And I told him that story. And he goes, yeah, I would have talked to you if you would have just washed your hands. Because that's one of those things. You're in the bathroom. No one wants to get talked to the bathroom. So if you've had any bizarre celebrity encounters, feel free to chime in. At Zach Gelb on Twitter, 855-212-4227. It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the program, and we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. We will take a break. When we come on back, Evan Washburn was on the sidelines for the AFC Championship game. Also did the exclusive interview with Sean McDermott after the game. We'll get his thoughts as we put a bow on Conference Championship weekend and start to advance to the Super Bowl, which is 2 Sundays from now, with Evan Washburn, who does a great job at CBS Sports. And I hope he's not wearing a hat today, because we really hyped up his hair, right? We hyped up his hair for Evan Washburn with also Hot Take Hickey as well joining us in the 4 p.m. Eastern time hour. So we have Evan Washburn with elite hair at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and then Hickey at 4:40 p.m. Eastern time, where Samter's claiming that Hickey has the highest hair in radio. I don't know. That actually may be Evan Washburn. So you be the judge when we come on back with Evan Washburn. It is the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, putting a bow on Conference Championship weekend, where we did see the Eagles take care of business up against the Commanders. And this man was on the sidelines with the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. And he is Evan Washburn from CBS Sports, kind enough to join us right now. Evan, appreciate the time as always. How you been, my man?
I'm good. Yeah, good to be back with you.
Well, I appreciate you joining us. So let me start you off with your interview with McDermott after the game. Those are always awkward, right? When a coach loses, he's down in the dumps and then right away has to talk to the media, but it's part of the job. Just what did you kind of take away from the conversation with Shawne McDermott after another gut-wrenching and heartbreaking loss for the Buffalo Bills up against the Chiefs?
Yeah, you're right. Those are not easy. I've had to do a bunch of them, whether it's been AFC Championship games, Super Bowls, college basketball, March Madness. And I think what you have to do in that spot is really match the energy of whoever you're talking to. And it helps to have a relationship professionally with the person you're talking to, and having that with Shawne, knowing that he was going to handle it professionally, but also knowing that we had to present it in a way where it was a true interview and not just a chance for him to say exactly what he wanted in that moment. And that's what you try and do. It's a fine line to walk. I think I took from it what I expected to take, or was hoping to take, from an unfortunate situation for the Buffalo Bills, which is an acknowledgement of just what a season they had, what they were able to do, but also how just gut-wrenching it was to lose that game, and how much who they're playing and who's under center and Patrick Mahomes affects every angle of your approach and your decisions. And you have to live with those decisions now for the next, whatever it ends up being, 6 months.
It's fascinating when you put it into that perspective, because if we would have talked about the Bills before the season and didn't say who they lost to, just said they made it to the AFC Championship game, I think a lot of people would have signed up for that year one removed from Stephon Diggs. But when you play that well and you get to that moment, right, you don't know how many more chances you'll get of that, even though you have a Super Bowl window still open with Josh Allen. And when it happens to Kansas City again, yes, the Bills overachieved this year, but you walk away with just saying, man, are they ever going to be able to beat these guys when it matters?
And you don't know how many opportunities you're going to get. As good as Josh Allen is, as impressive as this season was in showing themselves first, but really all of us, that they don't need A-listers around him necessarily from a Pro Bowl or All-Pro standpoint. And then defensively, similarly speaking, to make this run, they truly were a sum of their parts with a superhero at quarterback. But there's no guarantee, because Baltimore's going to continue to be in the mix. Cincinnati, you would think, would be able to figure out a way to have a fast start next season and be back in the playoffs. So the AFC is just loaded right now. The Chargers, obviously, are the Houston Texans going to come back? So for Buffalo, and this is where these guys recognize things that maybe we don't say enough, there's no guarantee Josh Allen ever gets back to that game in his career. And we expect him to play another 10 years, I would imagine. So that's a reality that they have to sit with now. And I think that's and the game was there to be had. And there was whether it was the early 4th and 1s or 4th and inches or 4th and goals or the 2-point conversions, or obviously the 4th and 5, which gets so much attention now. There's opportunities there, or defensively opportunities to make a play, even down the stretch there in that play to P. Ryan that ended up sealing the game. So those are the things, again, they have to replay in their mind. And when we hear, how do you win this game? It comes down to execution in the biggest moments, because they played well enough to win.
I'm glad you brought up the P. Ryan play at the end of the game. Now, if they stop them, a field goal gets it to a 6-point game. If they miss it, they're in good field position. It's a 3-point game as well. But it felt like when I was watching the game, when they didn't get the 4th and 5, everyone just assumed that the game was over. Was the Bills sideline like just totally deflated after the 4th and 5? Did it feel like the game was over, or was it just to a different level when P. Ryan ended up being wide open and getting that first down?
Yeah, it's tricky, Zach, and you're right. That is part of the job, is to try and gauge the emotional swings and momentum that you can feel that can be palpable at times. There was nothing remarkable either way. Yes, there was some real disappointment and dejection offensively that they couldn't complete that pass to Kincaid, or they failed to convert on 4th and 5. And that was the energy coming off the sideline. But it was clear that defensively they were still in the mindset that we just have to get them off the field and get another opportunity to Josh in the offense. That wasn't said necessarily. It wasn't as if Josh was running on the sideline saying, all right, just get the ball back and we're going to go down and score. Nothing like a sports movie in that regard. I do think that there was some frustration that they couldn't continue. That felt like the drive, and then it was a reminder to all of us that, hey, if they stop them, they've got ample opportunity to, as you pointed out, either win the game or tie it.
Evan Washburn here with us. So going into this game, the officials were a big talking point. I know Kansas City's fed up with that. Mahomes has talked about it. I had Drew Tranquill on last week, and he was just laughing at the notion that the Chiefs just get all the calls. Covering both sides of this, right? Being in some of those production meetings, getting the access that you had. How big was the officials and the talking points of that leading into this one?
Yeah, Zach, I'll be honest, I don't think we really touched on it at all with the teams. It's just not something. There's no furthering of the story from our side of things, or from the athlete side of things, or the coaches, that we can project to fans. I know that's frustrating, but the reality is the officials are their own entity, and they're going to do everything they think is right to officiate a clean game. And there's going to be things, as is human nature, that upon a review, whether it's immediately in the game when there are reviews or in the days after, that are going to bring to light maybe mistakes and all those things. But it really is, it's a fool's errand on our part to try and go into a game and say, all right, everybody, we're going to really keep a close eye on how they're officiating the Chiefs and look for opportunities to further what is in a lot of ways a conspiracy theory. Now, all that said, we have Gene Steratore in the booth, and he does his, in my opinion, the best job in the NFL at trying to give fans an idea of what the decision is, should be in his opinion, and why it maybe was or wasn't.
You know, I think you guys are in a tough spot. Like, obviously, this is your job. This is what you do. But it's easy for us to second guess and third guess calls when I'm sitting on my couch, right? And it's a comfy, controlled environment. You're on the sideline, watching it how you watch it. But your reaction in the moment on the two scenarios, one, the 4th and 1 that wasn't converted by Josh Allen. At first, I didn't think he got it. When I saw the overplay angle, I thought that the overhead view, I thought he did. And then also the Xavier Worthy catch. I thought that was going to get overturned when the ball, I thought, hit the ground. So how about your view now looking back on both those?
Well, it's funny, too. You mentioned your comfy confines. You all have a better view of all of this than I especially. Yeah. We have maybe one monitor with us at times. It's an RF, so it's a mobile monitor, so I can watch the broadcast as it's happening to reference things if necessary. But I'm not living the couch experience or the booth experience, for that matter, of like all the angles and really into the minutia of it. I was near the Worthy play with Cole Bishop. That one felt in the moment just like, unbelievable. Like first the play by Cole and then Worthy to rip it away. It felt like a tie goes to the runner type thing in the moment. And then at the 4th and 1, I was just listening to them talk about it. And I'm pretty sure that it was one where we thought it was going to be a first down and then it wasn't, or maybe that was the overturned play. The reality is, Zach, there's so much happening that I focus on what is it that they're going to need my perspective on. And I will say that's not one of those things, unless I can get on the talk back and say, hey, I literally saw the ball bounce, which I didn't, or I saw something. There's no real need for me to contribute to the officiating questions. That's, again, what Gene's there for.
And it moves so quickly. And I think the 4th and 1 has probably been maybe the biggest talking point from that game. Like when
you're talking because now we have the ability to look at a down line and see where his body was. And you can't really see the ball, correct?
Yeah. You can't see it conclusive, which is why they probably kept it. But how many times do they change that when it's not conclusive? I'm just wondering, like when you're walking off the field, like in that moment, what did you think the biggest storyline was from that game?
The 4th and 5.
Gotcha.
That Spags sent a corner blitz on 4th and 5, and Josh was flushed and couldn't make a accurate and composed throw. But then as you saw it happen, realized, oh my gosh, he actually made a throw that could have, and in a lot of ways it appears should have been caught by Dalton Kincaid. Not to put that on his shoulders by any means, but that to me was the play that was fresh in my mind. It goes to a previous point or discussion we had here, that the reality is equally as big a play as Samaje Perine coming out of the backfield and sealing the game. But no, it was the 4th and 5. And really it was the short yardage situations throughout the game. We've spent really the last 2 seasons, but even in lead up to this one in our meetings, talking about, hey man, the Bills are kind of playing like 1st and 8.5 yard football, similar to Philadelphia, because of their ability to utilize the Josh Allen version of the tush push. And Kansas City was the first team I've seen all season doing all these games, going back to whenever this thing was sort of instituted. The first team that the defense had the edge in that department. So I guess those would be the 2 things as I was, racking my brain and then also getting prepared to talk to Shawne, thinking, it was really those short yardage plays and that 4th and 5 that's sitting with me right now.
Isn't it amazing with Kansas City, right? You saw Brady and Belichick dominate the NFL for 20 years. A lot of NFL fans were like, finally, now there could be an open window. And how quickly this has just been snatched up by the Chiefs. It's really surreal, Evan.
It really is. And I'm thankful that I got to get a taste of the back half of the Patriots run and now to be alongside for the full KC one. And that was what was cool. And this is, and I'm sure you've heard this from folks you've had on, seeing and being around Josh and Patrick from their rookie years to now in these settings as they've grown and grown as their celebrity, and especially Patrick, but they haven't changed at all. And for them to have the perspective, especially Patrick, in reference to New England, when we asked him about Chiefs fatigue, and he made the point, I have more respect for what New England and what Tom did, because it really is, it's not, I mean, at the end of the day, it's what they're doing on the field, but it's exhausting to be where they are year in and year out. And he's only, 8 years in, 7 years as a starter, and they've completely captured that same level of dominance that we saw from New England, if not more, because they've got a chance to three-peat right now, and that little stretch wasn't something we got from New England.
How big, this could be a bizarre question to you, but how big do you think the Taylor Swift storyline is going into this Super Bowl? Because last year it was like nonstop Taylor Swift. Obviously, she's at the game still. It's her now longtime boyfriend and Travis Kelce, and they show her all the time. But how big is the Taylor Swift story this go-around, you think, from a coverage standpoint?
I don't know, Zach. I'm probably the wrong guy to ask because I've just never found it that captivating. Because I appreciate her as a performer, and I think her music's, some of the songs are definitely songs that I've become aware of. But to me, it's just cool that he's found somebody that he's happy with, and yes, if it brings in more viewers or more fans, absolutely. Look, the reality is everything Super Bowl week, whether it's a story that's been beaten to death or played out, is brought back and it is lifted up. I mean, I was thinking this is the first year in a long time where I'm not going to even be there during the week. And even the years where CBS doesn't have it, we used to go out and do some coverage for like the daily shows, which, over there at CBS. And you would kind of put together all your storylines, and often you would go, well, we've told that one 10 times, whatever. But the reality is it's Super Bowl week. Everything's on the table. Everything's getting pushed. And the more broad it is, probably the better, because that's what this week is. This game is. It's the broadest audience. It's the biggest event. So for us football geeks, this is probably not the one to look for the most dynamic coverage.
First thought on the Super Bowl, Eagles Chiefs is what for Evan Washburn?
It's so funny. I was just picking my son up at school, and one of the teachers was like, the Eagles are so much better. And I'm like, yeah, they might be. They might be more talented. Good luck betting against the Chiefs, though. I'm out on. We don't get to make picks, or we don't. I guess I can make a Super Bowl pick now that I'm not doing the game, but I'm riding KC. There's something there. I think Philly's a more talented, a deeper roster, but man, every time you try and come up with a reason why the Chiefs aren't going to win, they end up making you look bad because they find a way to win. And I do think the three-peat thing is real, and now they get to talk about it, and that's what's interesting to me. We've had Kansas City, our crew had them a couple times, and it wouldn't have come up in week 11 or whatever, week 14-ish times that we had them. But then as you got into the playoffs, started to hear it more, and then it was a discussion point this week and lead up to the Bills game. They were still kind of kicking it to the side because they hadn't gotten to that point yet. But now they're there, and I know that that's real. I know that that's something that they want badly, and I think it would cement so many of them, and Patrick's still got so much more time to add to this legacy. But doing something that's never been done in the league is something I think they're all absolutely jacked on the idea of.
Last thing I'll ask you, just get into the hiring cycle. Forget about Vrabel and Ben Johnson, because we just talked about them since those were the first two guys off the board. But with Aaron Glenn to the Jets, Pete Carroll to the Raiders, you had Liam Cohen go to the Jaguars, and then Brian Schottenheimer become the head coach in Dallas. Out of those four, is there one that stands out to you compared to the rest?
Well, the Schottenheimer one was, I'll say I was surprised. I don't have a strong connection, really any connection to the Cowboys. I've probably done 2 games of theirs and 11 seasons at CBS. So I don't know the inner workings. I consume most of it just the way I guess most fans do. I was aware that he was still coaching, but I didn't know that he was in the mix in that regard. So that one was probably the most stunning. And then I would follow that up with Pete Carroll to Las Vegas. And that, as I'm sure you've described or discussed with your listeners, but also people you've had on the show, really feels like a Tom and that organization saying, all right, let's get somebody in here and set a culture and try and at least lay a foundation. Now, the key to me in that's a great idea, but foundations can't be set. And then if the guy moves on or you move on from them, it's got to have some connection to that foundation in a lot of ways. Like a culture is only as good as who carries it on. So those were the two that I would probably say felt outside of kind of what we see normally in these cycles.
Yeah. And you wonder, Is Russell Wilson and Pete going to get back together with the Raiders?
That one's interesting. Yeah, I'm fascinated from what the quarterback coach thing does for in the Sam Darnold, the Russell, like where the kind of the chess pieces move, or the dominoes, or however you want to describe it. Because there's in what feels like a draft that's not quarterback rich, and for some of these teams that are looking to provide some stability there, but man, running Pete and Russ back in Vegas, it would be interesting.
He's Evan
in
Washburn.
That division too.
Yes, for sure. And you can feel like get a little stopgap quarterback in there. I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world. Evan Washburn, NFL on CBS. Great job at the AFC Championship game. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Zach. See ya.
There you go. Evan Washburn joining us on the show. We'll take a break. Let's continue that Raiders conversation when we come on back. We know Pete Carroll has landed with the silver and black. John Spytek is their GM. Who's going to be the quarterback next year? Could it be Kirk Cousins? Could it be Sam Darnold? Or could we get a little Russ and Pete reunion? We get to that on the other side.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, rocking and rolling, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. We'll talk about the possibility of Russell Wilson going back to the Raiders or going to the Raiders to reunite with Pete Carroll in just a second. 855-212-4227. Brian in Dallas is on the line, and he wants to talk about Brian Schottenheimer winding up with the Dallas Cowboys. Is this Brian Schottenheimer, or is it just another Brian in Dallas?
No, this is actually Francois in Dallas.
Ah, Francois, how are you? Good to hear from you. Haven't heard from you in a while.
Well, it's been a minute, and I appreciate you always taking my call. I've got two comments I want to make if you have time. There's been a lot of talk and articles written about the fact that, Schottenheimer's never been a head coach. But in researching, Ben Johnson's never been a head coach either. So there's no guarantee he's going to be successful in Chicago. Robert Saleh was and I hopefully I didn't butcher his last name.
Sala, but don't worry, Francois, because we'll probably mess up we messed up your name, so you could call him Saleh. That's good for me.
All right. Well, he was defensive
coordinator. Be like if Pele was an actual football coach.
Yeah. But yeah, he was obviously in San Francisco. He was a successful defensive coordinator, but as the head coach, got fired by the New York Jets. I mean, I'm not saying all the things about Jerry are not probably true. I'm just saying that.
So here's the only difference, I think. When Ben Johnson was hired, that's when he was a hot offensive coordinator. When Robert Saleh was hired, that's when he was a hot defensive coordinator. Brian Schottenheimer, when he was with the Jets, there was talk maybe one day that he could be a head coach, but that's going back to, 2008, 2009, somewhere in that realm, because he was with the Jets for a while. So I don't think anyone else would have hired Schottenheimer as a head coach. Now, you know this, Francois, there's a lot of times we've ripped hires before, and they turn out to be good hires, but I just don't see why you would do this one unless if it's just because this fits the mold of Jerry Jones being able to control a head coach.
Yeah, people say that. Brian Schottenheimer is 51 years old, and I'm not sure that he would let or allow anybody to, quote-unquote, control him. But I think he's got, based on what I'm hearing from sources I have that have connections at the Star, he's got a great vision. I've been told he hadn't been to sleep since he got the head coaching job. And sometimes a guy like that can work out. Now, will he work out? We don't know. I mean, we don't have a crystal ball. But what I can say is I think he's going to do everything in his power to get the Cowboys back to relevancy. Now, would that happen? We don't know. But, they talked about Lincoln Riley. He didn't get an interview with Lincoln. Sarkisian stayed at Texas. You got Aaron Glenn that's now at the Jets. It's a crapshoot all the way around. So you can be critical of every hire. The proof is in the pudding.
Now, Francois, I'm really intrigued by something. You said you have sources connected with the Star. Are you now our Cowboy insider? What's the background there with knowing people in the Cowboys organization?
No, I was in sports talk radio for 18 years.
Really?
Preston Pearson, I was his radio partner for several years. We did locally here in Dallas. Never could get drive time or morning drive, but I know a lot of former NFL players, a lot of Cowboy players, and I have a a certain person that actually trains a lot of the Dallas Cowboys defensive linemen, and he talks to Will McClay all the time. So obviously I can't reveal those sources, but I get little tips, new tidbits here and there. But I mean,
you sound a little bit like Drew Pearson, by the way.
I'm sorry?
You sound a little bit like Drew Pearson, by the way.
Well, it's funny because Drew Pearson's brother-in-law, or excuse me, his son-in-law, was our producer for about a year.
Really?
It was, yeah, he actually was. Yeah.
Well, I apologize that I called you Brian in Dallas, and since you're a radio guy, you know this. I'm throwing my producer under the bus then, because that's what they put up on the screen.
No, don't do that, because without your producer, boy, you'd fail miserably.
Yeah, you're probably right on that. But I didn't know that you had a big radio background, and I appreciate you calling and always enjoy when you get to catch up with us. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for taking my call.
You got it. So there you go. Brian in Dallas, who's not Brian in Dallas, he's Francois. I mentioned Francois, I think, the other day. You know, I haven't heard from him in a while. But I know that he's a big Cowboy fan. I've talked to him at the Cowboys for years. I didn't realize he did radio for 18 years. He never brought that up. And sometimes when you say a caller, like sources, they sometimes are making fun of people that actually have sources. But Francois is definitely, I would say he is in the lead spot right now for the Zach Gelb Show, Drama Dallas, Choking Cowboy Insider. Francois could be our new Dallas Cowboy Insider. Anytime he wants to call, he could do that. Anyway, let's get to Russ to the Raiders. So Ben Bozo in the YouTube chat, or Ben Dozo, whatever his name is, he asked, why would Russ and Pete reunite? Like, didn't Pete want Russ out? Kind of. So if you go back to that, and I actually had a source connected close to the situation back when this was the thing a few years ago, and I've talked about that on the air. But when you look back at that whole Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson situation, the initial fight was that Pete thought, because Russ was throwing a lot of touchdowns, but there was more turnovers in that season, that we wanted that the Seahawks needed to scale it back a little bit, where they didn't want him to throw as much. And they wanted to run the ball a little bit more and trust the defense. The problem with Pete at the end in Seattle is the defense was really never up to par. So you look back at that was the disconnect there. Russ wanted to cook. Russ wanted to throw the ball a ridiculous amount of times per game. And Pete's like, that's not how it's going to work. You know, that's not how we're going to win. And down the stretch, right, the numbers weren't as great passing-wise because they limited Russ's ability to throw the football, but they turned the ball over significantly fewer times. So that was the ego play that was between those two. But remember, in that locker room, which was not pro-Russ, Pete was his biggest defender. And I'm talking about with the Legion of Boom days. Russell Wilson was not popular. So I think time could heal all wounds. And also, Russ has to be honest with himself at this stage of his career, because he's basically asked to be a game manager with the Steelers this past year, where he knows he's not going to be throwing the ball 40 times per game. I thought Russell Wilson's biggest flaw was he thought that winning when you go back to the original whole situation with Dan Patrick, remember, it was the Tampa Bay Super Bowl, Tampa Bay going up against the Chiefs. He went on Dan Patrick and he goes, I'm sick and tired of going to Super Bowls and watching in the stands. I want to be one of the greatest ever. That was a lie by Russell Wilson. He wanted to be more of an icon than a great football player. And if you're a great football player, you become an icon. But Russ was so consumed with this individual brand. And then I thought he made some football decisions that were not smart. And where Russ was the underdog and had to earn everything that he got, that's when Russ was at his best. So I think now, years later, when Russ has been publicly humiliated, let's be real, Denver, he was publicly humiliated and did a terrible job. And Pete took that team to the playoffs in their first year without Russell Wilson with Geno Smith. And now Russ has restored his image a little bit, where no one's saying Russell Wilson's a great quarterback with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they look at him, they go, Russ had a fine season. He's good. He's serviceable. He's not great. So you can go back to Pittsburgh if Pittsburgh wants you. And that's probably the best thing. But if you reconnect with Pete, I don't know how you feel about this, Stu. I do feel as if what happened in the past at this point is already water under the bridge because Russ took a gamble. Pete showed that he could survive without him. And Russell Wilson basically has not ever looked all that good and has been looked at the way he thought his career was going since leaving Pete Carroll.
Yeah, and I think they both kind of weirdly might need each other. Like, this might be Russell Wilson's best path at being a starting quarterback or competing for a starting job. And then for Carroll and the Raiders, there aren't a lot of options. They don't have the high pick to draft a quarterback. And then you're kind of picking between, Russ, Sam Darnold, maybe Kirk Cousins, a couple other guys that are in there. So I think it makes a lot of sense for both sides.
I think if I had to rank them right now, most likely to least likely, I think Russ is most likely to wind up with the Raiders. I would say that's one. Then between Kirk and Sam Darnold, I'm going to say it's Sam because they go for like a 3-year plan and Pete's on a 3-year deal. And then I would say Kirk. But here's the thing. Kirk looked bad this year. I wonder now, a full year removed from the Achilles, because I always say, right, Achilles ACL, you get back, and then it's the year after that is when I think you go back to being a full percentage of health because it's also a mental grind. You're thinking about it so much. And clearly Kirk was rusty to start the year, and he was not all that much better. Like, had a few moments at the beginning of the year where he was okay, right, the Eagles game. But then after that, it got really ugly for him. So I don't know how much good football he has left, and he never looked, not that he was ever mobile, but he never looked like he trusts his legs this year, just standing in the pocket. But the way that Kirk could actually happen is I have a tough time thinking anyone's traded for Kirk Cousins with that contract. So would the Falcons want him as a backup? Yeah, I guess, because you're not paying Michael Penix Jr. or anything. But if Kirk doesn't want that, I don't know if Kirk could be a malcontent, but if he wanted to, everyone could be a malcontent. So if he gets released with all that money that he's owed, right, $100 million guaranteed, do you do that kind of Russell Wilson $1.5 million a year kind of thing? Where you just take the league minimum. But I would say right now, with those moving pieces, Russ is most likely to land with the Raiders. Then if you had to rank Darnold or Kirk for the Raiders, I would say it's Darnold 2, and then it's Kirk 3. All right, Ryan Hot Take Hickey going to join us next in studio. We'll talk about the coaching carousel and also toss some other things around the football world. Update time first, though. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, Notre Dame had a stout defense under Al Golden, but with their defensive coordinator in Cincinnati now, the Fighting Irish moved to fill that spot by hiring Chris Ash, the former head coach at Rutgers, who has significant experience in the D.C. role. The Cavaliers got past their first rough patch of the season and ended their 3-game slide on Monday. They're back at it tonight against the Heat in Miami, and despite the mini skid, they still lead the East and are tied for the most wins in the NBA. Head coach Kenny Atkinson looking down the road with the home stretch of the season. Believe it or not too far off.
I think there's a time in post-All-Star you got to start making that push where you start raising guys' minutes. You have to have a plan in terms of getting them ready for the playoffs, and we definitely have a plan for that.
The Thunder, the other team with 37 wins, capped the night of action on the road in the Bay Area, meeting the Warriors. Well, the Knicks are currently the hottest team in the East with 4 straight wins, including blowouts of the Kings and Grizzlies. They step up in class tonight when Denver comes to town. And the Hawks' Jalen Johnson will have season-ending shoulder surgery. He was having his best year yet, averaging nearly 19 points a game, along with the team leading 10 rebounds. I'm Rich Eck.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, this is Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network, our weekly Wednesday conversation in studio with Ryan Hot Take Hickey. Hickster, what's happening?
Z-Man, what's going on? How are you?
You're like really concerned about the lower third. It's not even up yet, but you kept on looking over while I'm introducing you?
I'm excited. I wouldn't say concerned. I will give Samter credit. He has some good, witty, creative ones that usually make me laugh. Mm-hmm. Highest hair in radio. Okay, I'll take it. Conan O'Brien, thankfully, is in TV, so I got no competition.
So we actually had Evan Washburn on to start this hour.
Great hair.
Well, See, I think Evan Washburn, no offense, has better hair than you.
Oh, absolutely. I would hope you say that. Yeah.
So the YouTube chat's like, this guy's hair is overrated. Evan Washburn was on Zoom. They
He's
didn't
on
love
Zoom?
his hair. Yeah. And
Now,
he
was
had a bad hair day.
Was it done up?
I would say about 85%.
Because when he's on CBS, I think it's slicked back.
I saw it in person a few weeks ago. He was at the Eagles game.
In the summertime, he's got a little bleach blonde action going on, which I do like. He's got great. No, don't listen to the chat. Chat's.
Oh, be careful.
Evan's
you don't want to be public enemy number one in the chat.
Great hair.
Remember, the views of Ryan Hot Take Hickey did not reflect the views of Zach Gelb on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity
All
Sports
I'm saying is that when it comes to Evan Washburn's hair, it's great. That's all.
So
complimenting him in.
Let me ask you this. In terms of great hair, I said I haven't got to a fourth one yet, so I can't do a Mount Rushmore. But in sports media, I would say you're on it.
Oh, God.
I would say Adam Shine is on it, and then Evan Washburn. Those would be three. I got to think of a fourth. You don't like Adam Shine's hair?
No, I'm just trying. Part of it is I'm so caught off guard that I can't exactly rifle through right now sports media hairdos and think good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
I just think when you have the list of myself and Adam Shine as two of the three, I mean, we being the sports media collective, have to be better somehow than that.
I don't know. Watch, I'll pull up a video of Adam Shine now.
He's got
Look
good
at that hair.
No, I'm not. It's good hair. I'm not a big fan personally of a slick back.
Okay.
But it's very solid head of hair. That's all.
Hickey doesn't like Matt Eberflus. That's the takeaway right there.
Well, I will say his coaching, I was going to say he went to crap, but it kind of already started there. So it went down even as bad as it was already to start. It went even worse when he got the hairdo. Let's say that.
Yeah, but when that's the big takeaway from Hard Knocks is that Matt Eberflus got a new hairdo. Come on,
new
give me a
style. Yikes.
All righty, I'm going to give you a team. Going to give you the coach that they hired. You give me just one word in terms of what you think of the hire, and then I'll ask you to expand if I find your word interesting.
Okay.
Raiders, Pete Carroll.
Perfect.
Okay, explain why perfect. For an organization that is down and out, is looking up, and you got three great coaches in Reed, who's an all-time great, Jim Harbaugh, who's a great coach, even though you hate his guts, but that's your problem, and Sean Payton, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame too. Why do you say that that's the perfect hire?
Like you just outlined, you have three coaches who know what they're doing. And you look back the last 20 years, the Raiders, for the most part, have been spinning their wheels and stuck in mediocrity because they've always hired a head coach that has no idea what they're doing. Art Shell, Tom Cable, Lane Kiffin, Josh McDaniels. We can go on and on. Stu knows the list. It is a bad, bad list.
Well, Art Shell the first time knew what he was doing. The second time, it wasn't a good hire.
Fair. Yeah. And you just look at it, it's like, holy hell. This team is never good because they never have a good head coach that knows what they're doing. Pete Carroll has history of winning. He can bring a plan. He has good culture. He won't be there that long, but I think that's fine. 3 or 4 years. This team is I'll say 60 feet under the ground. If Pete Carroll can just get them back to ground level and then you can start building again from there, that's a win. That's what the Raiders need. I think that's what they got.
Do you agree Russell Wilson will be their quarterback?
I'm not sold yet. I'm not sold yet on that. I think, number one, I think Pittsburgh will be motivated to bring him back. And I think if you're Pete, I don't know if he's all in, let's say, excited to bring Russ back.
But I would be fine with it because Pete has already won that debate, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, though, if you can't get a franchise guy, so I don't think Sam Darnold's a franchise guy, number one. If you want to pay Sam Darnold 3 or 4 years, that's an option where you allocate what people could view somewhat franchise money to him, but I wouldn't do that. Could they move up in the draft and get Shedeur Sanders? I'm not going to say it's out of the realm of possibilities, but anything's possible. But you're sitting with the 6th pick. I think Shedeur will be gone there. Right. So it's unlikely. So I look at that and I say to myself, would I rather have Russell Wilson on a 1-year deal where you have to pay him basically nothing, or Sam Darnold on a 4-year deal? I would just kick the can down the road if it's just about getting things to be stable. And Russ doesn't turn over the ball that much. Or if Kirk becomes available, then Kirk Cousins is of interest. But I think I'd rather have Russell Wilson right now moving forward than Kirk Cousins, where I think Kirk has a higher ceiling. But I just don't know if he's ever going to get back to what he was because of this Achilles injury and how all through the year it still looked like it was a problem for him.
Daniel Jones, there are a lot of, they need a bridge. I'm with
Daniel
you.
Jones.
They're not getting a franchise quarterback. You need a bridge. 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. You have a lot. There's going to be a ton of bridge options out there. I won't say I feel it's a lock. It's going to be Russ.
Dallas Cowboys, what's your word?
Predictable.
Okay, and I'm assuming that's because it's a coach that they could control in Brian
Exactly
Schottenheimer.
right. Jerry doesn't want competency. He wants someone that says, yes, Mr. Jones.
Yeah. Jacksonville.
Concerning. I like.
Now, hold on. Your word has to be Duval.
Gives me I don't know. It gives me the chills. And it's not even the way he said it. It's the face he made, like with the eyes.
Yeah.
Like,
Duval.
Oh, God. It gives me, it just gives you the heebie-jeebies.
It gave you the ick, right?
It really did.
I think everyone looked at that hire. They go, the process was sloppy. But Liam Cohen, right, is a fine hire for them. It was the second hottest name on the market in terms of innovative offensive-minded guys that are just offensive coordinators in this league. I still think the rise is so quick, but that's what happens because I remember when I worked with you on a daily basis, we were like, oh, he's at Kentucky. Yeah. And then he's with the Rams. Oh, he's back at Kentucky. And now it's like, oh, he's with the Bucs. So I thought it was a quick rise, but right after that press conference, I think everyone's just like, man, this is the worst hire ever.
But you said it, though. The reason why I use concerning is just the process. Like, if you told me, okay, when they fired Doug Peterson, you said the end result is Liam Cohen. I said, okay, that's a pretty good result. But when you look at it where they keep Shad Khan, despite all the negativity surrounding him, then it gets to the point where you interview Liam Cohen. Cohen says, no, thanks, I'm not working for Balky. And then Shad Khan, who basically, Balky was Teflon to him, said, in the span of 10 minutes, you're gone, you're fired. And now, not only Liam Cohen are you hired, here are the keys, you pick your own GM. Mm-hmm. For a guy that had he did great work with the Buccaneers in 2024.
Yeah.
Other than that, like you look at the sustained success, the questions, it's not like he has this great resume, let's say like a Ben Johnson does, where it's worth giving him the entire organization, say, we trust you, go take it. That's what is concerning to me.
Desperate times call for desperate measures, and that's what happens when your owner's only won 30% of his games since taking over.
Shot. Poor Trevor Lawrence.
Well, let me actually expand on that opinion. I saw 2 videos that you put out today. Let's just ignore the contracts and just pretend that we could just trade them as that they're easy. But you're saying that Dak Prescott and Trevor Lawrence should both demand trades.
Yes.
All right, where are they going?
I think there are a lot of teams interested. Steelers, Seahawks, Vikings. There are a lot of quarterback-needy teams out there.
Well, the Vikings are going with J.J. McCarthy. Whether you want to recognize that or not, that's what they're doing.
If you're Kevin O'Connell, again, we'll see. Like if all of a sudden Trevor Lawrence is out there, are you sure you like J.J. McCarthy that much? Like, I get it, like the whole Sam Darnold thing, he burned and crashed right in front of your face.
We got Hickey with the hands there. He's just
I'm just like, if you're Kevin O'Connell.
There was a 7-second delay before the words came out.
I mean, J.J. McCarthy's a rookie quarterback who missed all last year with an injury, wasn't even really practicing a lot, so he couldn't do a lot. It's when the pressure, not pressure because he's not going anywhere.
But those two organizations, they just gave new deals to both Trevor and to Dak. The dead cap is going to be ridiculous.
That's not their fault.
Yeah, but it's not feasible to trade him, is my opinion. I understand your point that you think those two franchises are going nowhere. I don't think there's any chance either are getting dealt.
I'm not saying they will get dealt, but I'm saying, like, from Trevor Lawrence's perspective, Dak's perspective, like, you got to look at this process for Trevor, for the hire for Dak, and say, what are we doing here?
So Dak, I would say yes, but Dak had an option to get out and become a free agent this year, and Dak took the deal.
He did.
For Trevor Lawrence, I don't think that they're that far off from turning it around because the only team that's intimidating, and they're not really that intimidating, are the Houston Texans. That division is easy peasy. You got Brian Thomas Jr. Trevor's got to stay healthy. He hasn't been the last 2 years, and you got a good pass rusher in Josh Hines-Allen. I think they could turn that around quickly. But anyway, let's get to the Jets. What's the one word? Aaron Glenn.
Irrelevant.
Why irrelevant?
Just because it's going to come down to Woody Johnson. Woody Johnson, at the press conference, I was asked about his involvement, and I think for me at this point, with how much Woody meddles and gets his hands dirty and screws up the organization, Aaron Glenn has a lot of juice. I'm excited to see what he is as a head coach. But I don't think
they need a quarterback. That's the bottom line.
It's going to matter in part because I would agree with quarterback, number one. And if the owner's always in your ear about, let's do this. Oh, man, this guy's Madden rating's pretty good. We should draft him. Let's sign him. Then, like, your hands are tied. It doesn't matter. So it's like until the Jets until Woody Johnson shows he can actually let the people he hires do the job they're hired to do, I don't think it matters who's the head coach because Woody's going to say what he wants, do what he wants, and the head coach is going to be basically at his mercy.
Patriots with Mike Vrabel.
Solid.
But a few years ago, you told me there was never a chance that Mike Vrabel would come and coach the Patriots. 2 years ago.
Did I say that?
Yeah, we got into a big debate over it.
Oh, interesting.
But I would say, a lot has changed since then. So
I would say solid. What I don't love about it is nothing to do with really Vrabel.
It's the Patriots.
Here comes the Hickey hatred. It's the fit. The Patriots, I think, needed an offensive-minded coach to get the most out of Drake May. Mike Vrabel in the service, very good coach. But he's hiring Josh McDaniels as his OC to develop Drake May.
Who's a good offensive coordinator, horrible head coach.
Very concerning.
He's a good offensive coordinator, horrible head coach.
How he developed Mac Jones, and I put developed in air quotes, quote unquote.
Whoa, wait, no. He was there for a year with Mac Jones.
Right, and what did they do in that 1 year?
They made the playoffs.
Right, but how did they make the playoffs? They told Mac Jones, don't do anything. Don't screw up.
Yeah, they
defense
put him in
was
a
good.
game manager role because Mac Jones not that good.
This team is not good enough for that.
Mac Jones,
Josh McDaniels
he was a Pro Bowl quarterback under Josh McDaniels.
So was what's his call? Tyler Huntley.
Yeah.
The Pro Bowl nod is just gone.
Gone. You hate McDaniels. I get it because you're a Colts fan.
I'm thankful that he's not the head coach looking back.
Yeah.
But Josh McDaniels does not exactly get me, if I was a Patriots fan, excited that he's going to get the most out of Drake May, and I think this team is going to succeed or fail based on the development of their quarterback.
It's going to come down to if they get an offensive line and number one wide receiver around him. Bears, what's the word? Slobberfest. This is the greatest hire ever. I'm hot take Hickey.
A+. Best hire.
You're so predictable.
But A+. I won't be Charles Barkley. I won't say 2 words. You said 1 word, A+.
I said that?
No. There's a famous clip of Charles Barkley when they say, Chuck, say 2 words about the upcoming. And he says like 10 words. He goes, what are you guys talking about? You said 2 words. Steve Nash and Chris Paul. Yeah, it's 4 words, idiot. A+.
Gotcha. All righty. This is fun. You got Knowles as your defensive coordinator.
Oh.
It's fine. No more excuses for James Franklin. If James Franklin doesn't win a national championship this year, I'd fire his ass.
I am so excited.
You're already taking the bait.
What are you taking the bait? You're saying me, like every other publication hasn't put out.
You didn't win one big game this year.
You have to win. I don't disagree. Mm-hmm. But for the first time in a long time, they are set to actually win big games.
Yeah. Stop.
Best defense coordinator. They put the money where their mouth is. They got everyone returning. Let's go.
Okay.
No excuses.
I can't wait for you to be disappointed.
National title
November.
Or bust.
Yeah, it won't happen. All right, he's Ryan Hot Take Hickey. Shawne Merriman, a real man, will join us next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's talk to Shawne Merriman right now, and he's here today courtesy of BetOnline. Check out BetOnline for the most diverse list of well over 1,000 Super Bowl prop bets, including MVP, the length of the national anthem, close to 100 Taylor Swift-related prop bets, broadcast odds, game and player stats, and much more. Now joining us, formerly of the Chargers, played with the Bills as well, Shawne Merriman. Shawne, how you been?
What's up, my man? How you doing?
Well, I'm fantastic. So let me start you off with your Chargers first. Successful first season, made the playoffs with Jim Harbaugh. Justin Herbert, we know, had a bad postseason game. But I look at that team, I like what Ladd McConkey did, and I kind of say, okay, now they got to go get someone else as well at the wide receiver positions. Give me your thoughts on the Chargers.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I don't think, I'm not going to sit here and defend Justin Herbert in the playoffs, right? Because he had the bad year with Jacksonville, and then he had a bad game with, Texas coming up. So I think he knows, and everybody in the organization knows that he got to play better in those standpoints. But I try to remind people this is a 5-1 team last year. This team won 5 games last year now in the playoffs and possibly in the contention next year to get up there and get back there and then surpass that. And you're right, man. There's some pieces they need to add on the offense side of the ball. Ladd, and I said it before the season, that he was going to be instrumental in those guys' success during the year. I didn't think he was going to be instrumental that fast and coming in as rookie performing that way. People are going to keep hopping on Quentin Johnston, and he needs to be better and all that. He is much better than he was last year. But I think he's going to probably go in and be a number 3 wide receiver, but they need to go out and get a number 1 wide receiver. No doubt about that, because they need somebody's going to stretch the field and at least pose a threat to that defense, that they have the opportunity to throw a deep ball and let McConkey work underneath. And then your third wide receiver is going to be strong Quentin Johnston.
For people that say that Justin Herbert is overrated, how do you respond to them?
Well, people are going to keep saying that because it's his ability, right? and what he's capable of doing. We know that Justin Herbert has the biggest arm in the National Football League. He does things that, you can say that Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow knows. He does things that nobody can do because he's such a big quarterback. He's so a physical quarterback. He's a specimen, so he can do things that most quarterbacks, if not any, can do. So he's judged on his capabilities, not what he should do in the playoffs. I mean, his numbers that he put up during the season was historical. He had a historical season when you talk about the turnover ratio, the amount of games and the stats that he put up. Those are historical numbers. But he's going to be based on, just like everything else in this day and age, the rings he wins and how far he gets in the playoffs. And until he does that, people are going to hang that dark cloud over him as long as they can.
We know Reed and Mahomes are the standard, right? Not only in your division, but in all of football. You got to see what year one looks like for Harbaugh and Herbert. Sean Payton got things going this year for the Broncos. What were your thoughts on Bo Nix, who had a very successful rookie season?
Bo Nix, man, I like him a lot, and I hate the fact that he's in a division with the Chargers because that dude, his ceiling, man, he has a tall ceiling because, for one, you see him like getting better with your own eyes as the season went on. He's just got better decision making. His leadership ability and how he commands that offense got a lot better. And more importantly, I want to remind people this too to go back and see when had the back and forth with Sean Payton. And the respect level that these two guys got. Sean Payton didn't have that respect level for Russell Wilson. He didn't have that respect level at all. So it just tells you what that organization thinks about Bo Nix and then also what Sean Payton and that team thinks about it.
It's really murderer's row when it comes to coaches in this division. We talked about the three that were there with this team, with those teams this year. And then the Raiders go out there and add Pete Carroll, which if Pete can't get the foundation set and the Raiders back to just being okay, then man, it'll be some dark times continuing for the silver and black.
Yeah, but you got to think that, just by his resume, his body of work, that Pete Carroll's going to go in and make that team better. There's no shot at Antonio Pierce, but he's, when it comes to coaching, the head coaching, he's a rookie. He doesn't have the experience and expertise that Pete Carroll has and the resume that Pete Carroll has. And one thing we know about Pete Carroll, he's a motivator. He's a guy that can get the most out of every single player. In my opinion, he made Russell Wilson who he is. In fact, he made Russell Wilson who he is that other teams believed that Russell Wilson was going to show up the same one that did in Seattle. He never showed up because of what Pete Carroll did. So you gotta feel that he's going to make that organization better. They still got to go out and get a quarterback. And, Brock Bowers is a beast. I mean, that dude is next level. He's going to be good for a long time. He's going to give the Chargers hell. But you cannot win in that division without a franchise quarterback.
If you take the draft off the table, since they had the 6th overall pick, let's just say Shador and Cam Ward are both off the table by then. If it came down to Russell Wilson on a 1-year deal for the Raiders, maybe Sam Darnold on a 3 or 4-year deal for the Raiders, if Kirk Cousins becomes available, maybe you can get him on the veteran minimum with how much money he's owed from the Falcons. What do you think out of those three is the best option for Pete Carroll and the Raiders to pursue?
I think the world of Kirk Cousins. I think he's done a tremendous job over his career. But being on the back half of your career, trying to compete in that division with Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes and Bo Nix now that's going to be coming up. Same thing with Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson's his biggest attribute at this point in his career is to be, if he wants to continue playing, is to be a backup somewhere, and kind of coach up a young player coming in, be a good support system. And that's if he wants to continue playing, because he could come in and say, look, I don't want to back up anybody, and choose to, make a decision on whether he wants to keep playing football or not. He's made a ton of money. He's a champion. He got all the accolades that you can ask for when you play the game. So he has to make that decision to come in somebody being a backup. I don't see Russell Wilson as a starter in the NFL going forward. I just don't.
So you would go with Sam out of those three options in that case?
I would go with Sam. Yeah, absolutely. And people want to lay on Sam because of how he looked in the playoffs, but everybody forget your body of work and you get in there. You don't just cruise to the season and put up those numbers and do what Sam Darnold has done for the Vikings during the season, and now he has a bad game in the playoffs, and let's just throw away the key. We're done with him. It just doesn't work that way. And there's plenty of teams out here, including the Raiders, that will love a Sam Darnold regular season, getting those guys into the playoffs. So if you're going to go with those three, you're looking at Sam Darnold for that.
You had so many good teams with the Chargers, and they had good teams after you left them as well. But unfortunately, we know the Chargers never able to pull through and get there. I know you were at Buffalo to wrap up your career, and how much love, Shawne Merriman, you have for Bills Mafia. Does those Bills teams, since you've been there before, like what can you say when you think it's going to be your year and you have this team that you think is ready to go slay the dragon, like you guys were trying to slay Brady, like how they're trying to slay Mahomes, and you guys just keep on coming up short? What do you do as a competitor to kind of just stay mentally sane after it happens again?
It's deja vu. For me personally, watching it, it happens with the Bills and having a chance to keep running up against Patrick Mahomes. For us, our pathway was always, let's get past Ben Roethlisberger, let's get past Peyton Manning. Oh, we gotta see the final boss in Tom Brady, right? It's one of those things that the path to get there is going to be tough as long as those guys are in the plan in the NFL. I think the difference is, nowadays, is that a lot of guys move around from team to team. Coordinators are gone. We've seen what happened with the Lions. That team for the Lions is dismantled. They got to go and figure it all out again because both of their coordinators who made that team what they were, nothing against Dan Campbell at all. I think he's a great coach. But those coordinators really set the tone in that locker room and that team. So they got to figure it out again. With the Bills, Josh Allen, you're always going to have a chance when he's there. Well, you got coordinators, you got guys, his contract is up, it's not going to be there. They're going to have to figure it out. And I always say this, man, you got that 4 or 5 year window when you got that nucleus together, that team together. You got an opportunity. You got to start questioning: is the Bills running into that tail end of having that opportunity to go win a championship?
And you know what's crazy, right? The Bills have been right there, and they haven't got the job done. Even the Bengals, who were right there, they got to the Super Bowl, couldn't get the job done when they fell to the Rams. We've seen Lamar and the Ravens be close the last few years as well. If you had to hitch your wagon to one of those three, Burrow, Allen, or Lamar, who do you think will get that ring first, in your opinion?
You got to say Burrow. I would say because he's been close enough to get there. They got two tremendous wide receivers. I don't know what's going to happen with Higgins after the season. But they've known they can score a lot of points and match people. They got to go out and beef up that defense a little bit. They were terrible in some parts of the season last year. But it's so hard to say, man, because they're going to keep running up into that same problem.
Yeah.
And that's Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, and Chris. They're going to keep running up against that no matter who it is. And so until someone figure out how to get over that hump, and that hump being the Kansas City Chiefs, everything else is an uphill battle.
What stands out to you the most about Spagnuolo? I know a coordinator, assistant coach, has never been in the Hall of Fame. He's maybe the best big game coordinator I've ever seen. He has 4 rings, could get a 5th one after 2 Sundays from now. And the scary part, and you know this when you watch the Chiefs, we all know they have the best player in the sport in Mahomes, but their best unit and the best side of their ball is actually their defense for the last 2 years. So how about Spags?
It's one thing, and I played for a great defensive coordinator, Wade Phillips. One thing about Wade Phillips, he wanted players to do what they're best at, right? So you're not going to be out of position. He's not going to force you to do something you're not great at. He's going to put you in a position to win. Spagnuolo, I think his biggest upside and what makes him a great defensive coordinator is his timing, not just his play calling, but his timing and when he decides to dial blitzes up and the matchmaking of the calls. And it's all about timing with him. And so, you would think certain teams and coordinators would call certain plays in 2nd and 5 and 2nd and long situations or 3rd and short. His timing on when he brings blitzes and who he brings and where it comes from is impeccable. We haven't seen anybody like that in a long time with Spagnuolo, and that's what really makes him great.
When you look at the hiring cycle, Shawne Merriman, what did you make of the Cowboys hiring Brian Schottenheimer?
Well, I played obviously for Marty Schottenheimer, and Brian Schottenheimer was on that staff back with the Chargers. And, I think the world of him. And I think that this is the problem right now that we're getting into. It's the big name coaches hires that really riles up a fan base and brings new life, and everybody is excited about the season. And because Brian Schottenheimer is not a big name, and he's really an in-house hire, it's not going to get the Cowboys fans excited. So that's where the darkness is coming from. And here we go again. Or Jerry wants to just control everything. Because ultimately, when you start to see like a Vrabel on the market, when you start to see, Ben Johnson, you start to see these bigger names that's on the market, the fans now want to get excited again. Pete Carroll coming into the Raiders facility, that's excitement to the fan bases that we got a chance. No matter what happens, right? They could go out and stink it up again this year, but it doesn't matter. we got Pete Carroll here, so everybody's feeling good about the season, and the Cowboys fans are just overlooking the fact that a big name coach didn't come into the mix. Oh, here we go again, right? So I think it was good because you don't want to change that offense too much. You can change the defense, bring in the defensive coordinator, but when you start flip-flopping from Kellen Moore to the offensive coordinator they've had over the certain period of time, you don't want to keep changing that offense because it takes much longer. That's when you start getting into the rebuilding phase. So I think internally, Brian Schottenheimer can go out and get it done. Can he go out and win them a Super Bowl? I don't know, but I think it was a good hire in-house.
So let me ask you this, because I want your player perspective on this, Shawne Merriman. So Liam Cohen gets hired by the Jaguars. And right at first, it's met with positive reviews because Trent Baalke's out. All right, they get a young, innovative offensive mind in Liam Cohen. And then he speaks to the media and he does the Duval chant. And it gave a lot of people the ick, and it was very creepy. If you're a player watching that, do you go, okay, yeah, this is great, we got a player's coach, or is it, what the heck did we get ourselves into with the cringeworthy response to the press conference?
It's a big difference when you jump from being a coordinator to a head coach, right? When you're a coordinator, you can be a little quirky, you can do some things. You're not under the spotlight. When you're a head coach, everything is magnified. People are looking into what you're doing and looking at what you're saying. So when you say one little clumsy thing out there, it's going to get amplified, right? Was it corny a little bit? Yes, I think it was. I think it was maybe trying a little bit too hard to be cool or fit in.
Very college-y-like, you know?
It is very, very much like, and two, you gotta understand, man. You as a head coach and a leader of a team, you don't have to force anything on anybody. People trying to win games and they want a leader. They want somebody to lead that team. You don't have to do anything extra, try to rile people up and get the fans and the people on your side. Because if that's not you, that's the problem. It comes across. It comes across that you're trying too hard. That's what it seemed like, when he did that.
He's Shawne Merriman, and he's here courtesy of BetOnline. Check out BetOnline for the most diverse list of well over 1,000 Super Bowl props, including MVP, length of the national anthem, close to 100 Taylor Swift-related props, broadcast odds, game and player stats, and much more. Once again, that's BetOnline. Make sure you check it out. Shawne Merriman, thank you.
You got it, man. Hey, we got a big fight Friday, February 7th in Long Beach, California. Make sure you guys download Lights Out Sports TV. It's obviously my free ad-supported streaming platform that's available on all smart TVs, iOS and Android. But we got a couple guys in this card I think it will take off to the UFC. So make sure you guys check out Lights Out Extreme Fighting 22, February 7th.
Lights Out Extreme Fighting, also BetOnline. Make sure you check out all the good stuff that Shawne Merriman has cooking. All righty, thank you so much, Shawne. There he is, Shawne Merriman, joining us on the show. Let's take a break. We'll come on back. We're actually going to do some hoops on the other side. We got to get into Jimmy Butler, as he'll get traded. The question is to where. There's one destination that stands out to me. And also, could we see the length of NBA games actually getting shorter? We'll get into all that on the other side.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
I don't know if there's ever been a more pointless story that we have to talk about than probably Jimmy Butler. It's like on both sides. So Jimmy Butler wants a new contract. The Heat would have been fools to basically bend over backwards for Jimmy Butler and let him do whatever he wants. They would have been fools. He's a good player, a very good player, in his mid-30s, where your championship window with him has already passed. Like, the Heat got to the finals twice with Jimmy Butler. It took so much to get there, and they couldn't get the job done in his 2 NBA Finals appearance. And I understand, even though, right, Pat Riley is more old school, even though Pat Riley is one of the few people in the NBA who could say it's my way or the highway in this era of player empowerment, you could view Pat Riley how you want. Pat's not wrong in saying the Heat aren't going to give Jimmy Butler the deal that he wants. The problem is they should have got rid of him in the offseason because that relationship was fractured beyond repair, and now you're just getting into a petty game of Jimmy acting like an ass and then Pat probably being petty, if we're just being fair. But you would think, the way that this is being talked about, Stu, that Jimmy Butler is like a top 10 player in the sport. The only time we ever say Jimmy Butler is a top 10 player, for example, if I did a list right now of top 10 players in the NBA, I don't think people would put Jimmy Butler in the top 10. The only time people put him in the top 10 and made that case was when he got to the NBA Finals and it was like, okay, you had 7 days off and you have to just basically sit there in awe of what Jimmy Butler did. It's not me crapping on Jimmy Butler saying he sucks. And I like Jimmy Butler. He's a very good player. But you're acting right now, and this is what happens in the league, and he at least has something more tangible than some of these other guys that request for trades. He is being unreasonable, I think. And I don't know, like, he'll get traded because the Heat and him have reached a dead end, and now they need to get rid of him. But is there a great desire by the rest of the league to bring in Jimmy Butler? I don't think so. Like, you're going to have to pay him. Maybe he'll be a good soldier because he's not going to get the deal right away. So, do I think that if you need a number one, you're breaking the bank for Jimmy Butler? No, because he's not a number one. Could he be a number two in a championship team? I guess. But I think if you're a team out there that's bringing in Jimmy Butler, Stu, it's really to be your third best player. Like, can he push a team over the top? That's how I think teams are going to look at it. And with how nasty this got in Miami, I don't believe there's going to be these crazy amount of suitors. I really don't.
No, and I also don't think Jimmy Butler's going to change who wins the title. Like, I don't think if he goes to the Suns, I don't think they're winning a title. If he goes to the Warriors, I don't think they're winning a title. Again, at this point, he's a good player. He's a very good player, not a top player like you said.
Can I give you one?
Sure.
What about Milwaukee? You have Giannis Antetokounmpo. You got Dame Lillard. And I read that they have to get Pat Connaughton out before they could do this. But then you could give the Heat Chris Middleton and also Bobby Portis, who I like Bobby Portis a lot. But unfortunately for Chris Middleton, he's just never healthy anymore. And he won a championship, and that's when he was at his best. And I think that Chris Middleton and Bobby Portis, they're Heat culture kind of players, in my opinion. And the Heat, they're not trying to be this great team. They're not trying to win a championship right now, right? They're trying to be a tough out in the postseason, make the playoffs, and maybe at best they could win one round or at least go to 7 in the first round. I don't think it's likely they probably win a playoff series this year. So I don't think you're going to get that much back. So that is why I think those two teams, even though they've been going up against each other throughout the years, it could help both out where the Bucks get better and the Heat basically put lipstick on a pig on what's a very ugly situation.
Yeah, that is an interesting one. I would still say that the Bucks wouldn't be as good as the Celtics, Cavs, or Knicks, though, in my opinion. It puts them at least in the conversation with the Cavs and Knicks, but I don't know.
Because
it's tough.
The regular season, I don't want to say it's irrelevant for the Bucks, but once you win that championship, I know with last year when you had the coach get fired, then Doc Rivers come in, the Bucks have showed that they're going to be okay this year. But ultimately, the clock really doesn't start ticking on the Bucks until you get in the postseason. Because now it's, can Giannis get 2? And then if Giannis doesn't get 2, it's, oh my goodness gracious, Giannis is going to request a trade. So you said the Cavs, the Celtics, and the Knicks, who are 1, 2, and 3 right now in the East?
Yes.
Yeah. I know the Cavs are so damn good at 37-9. And the Knicks, we saw what they did last year. For the Knicks, are they going to be able to be healthy at the end of the year? They made their big move getting Bridges and Cat. I look at the Cavs and the Knicks. I don't know about you. It's so impressive what the Cavs have done this year, being 37-9, and Atkinson's a heck of a coach. And the Knicks, what they've been able to do the last few years has been fun to watch. There's still always that but with them. Like, but can you get the job done in the postseason? We know the Celtics can get the job done in the postseason.
They're coasting right now.
But if I put a gun to your head, even if they don't get Jimmy Butler, the Bucks, and I said pick 2 teams out of the East right now, one of them has to get to the finals. Who are you picking?
Celtics for sure, and then I think Knicks would be my 2.
I'm still going Celtics and Bucks. And hey, the Knicks are going for it this year. So we'll see if they can get the job done. So let's listen up to Vince Goodwill. He was on the Goodwill with Goodwill podcast. I thought he was on the Good Shepherd show there for a second when I was reading that courtesy. Here is Vince Goodwill, though, on a surprise Jimmy Butler suitor.
I've heard that Philly quietly could be a suitor for Jimmy Butler. It would be a Jimmy for Paul George swap. I believe, I've heard this, that Joel Embiid, who still loves Jimmy Butler, is pushing for them to reacquire Jimmy Butler, knowing that Jimmy is out there. But here's the other side of that. Paul George was told by management or ownership, we wouldn't trade you year one of this deal.
Oh, Daryl Morey is not someone that wouldn't go back on his word or against his word if you believe James Harden or not. I have no desire to see Jimmy Butler back in Philly. No desire whatsoever. A year or two ago, yeah, different story. But that team is 18 and 27. And I think it's easier to say who is healthy rather than who isn't healthy. Or the other way, who isn't healthy rather than who is healthy. I don't know anyone on that team who is healthy. But that would be such a past the prime kind of move. The time to keep Jimmy Butler was when he was there. Now, I get at the time why they kept Ben Simmons because they didn't know, even though they should have known, but they weren't embracing how lackadaisical and how petulant Ben Simmons was, and Jimmy wasn't going to put up with that. That's the irony to me also with this Jimmy Butler situation. Jimmy was annoyed with Ben's lack of work ethic, and now you have a guy who's requesting a trade out of there because they're not giving him like this new contract, and he's dogging it right now in Jimmy Butler. So I have no, like, if I had to say three teams here that I would be curious if Jimmy Butler did go there, I would say the Bucks, I would say the Suns, just because I would love to see misery with misery. Really, it would be fun. And then you know what? I think the Magic would be interesting. I'm a little disappointed with the Magic this year. They're 500. They had a nice season last year. You know, do they need a little bit more of a veteran presence on that team? And I would throw potentially the Orlando Magic there. And the other big name to watch is De'Aaron Fox, as we wait to see if the Kings are going to trade him from now until the deadline. This was Adam Silver on the Dan Patrick Show. Now, you would never think the NBA would actually shorten games, right? That could be thrown out there. I didn't think the commissioner would talk about it, but here is Adam Silver doing that with Dan Patrick.
Something else that I'm a fan of, and I'm probably in a minority, as we get more involved in global basketball, the NBA is the only league that plays 48 minutes. And I am a fan of 4 10-minute quarters. I'm not sure that many others are. I mean, putting aside what it means for records and things like that, you know, I think that a 2-hour format for a game is more consistent with sort of modern television habits.
I struggle with this one. Here's why. Here's why I struggle with this one. I agree with the commissioner. I can't stand the commissioner, but I agree with the commissioner. But the commissioner has no spine. And that's the thing. He's not wrong. Shorter games have more benefits to us as fans, right? The NBA is basically turned into, you go on social media and you just see the highlights, you see the slam dunks, you see the embarrassing plays and things like that, right? That's what it's turned into. And then whatever Charles Barkley and Shaq are talking about it inside the NBA. The regular season product's been so irrelevant. Now, if the commissioner is saying there's a lot of benefits to shortening the games and making it from 48 to 40 minutes and doing 10-minute quarters, and he anticipates load management to go away, I would then follow up and say to the commissioner, why do you believe, even though the games would be reduced by 8 minutes, that players in the NBA more than any other league, where the players run the league and all we hear about is load management this, load management that, over shortening the games by 8 minutes, do you really think a guy like Kawhi Leonard is going to go, if let's say he misses 25 games a year or 20 games a year, that he's then going to go play in 10 to 15 more games a year? That's where I think we're getting sold a bill of false goods. I really do. Because in theory, it makes sense. In theory, we'll shorten the games, less time, 8 minutes shorter, maybe load management will go away. I think once you start load management, it's not going away. And even though you're shortening the game, so maybe you could manage those minutes better, then how many minutes also in a game will your superstar be on the court? That's another thing. If it's a 40-minute game, am I getting my superstar on the court for 33, 34? Or is he only going to be on for like 23, 24? Just throwing out numbers. So I think it's misleading where I understand why you would, for the ideas and the reasons why you'd want to shorten the games. But I don't think the payoff is going to be as rich as what you think, because we need the players to start caring about the regular season. And once you stop caring about the regular season, and I think it's tough to suck it back in and make enough changes where the regular season product goes back to being what it once was. Do you feel that way, Stu? Because it's a nice idea in theory, but there's no trust with me in the NBA, with this commissioner, and also the players.
Yeah, I agree. I would still think there would be some type of load management, or like you said, just not playing as many minutes. I don't know. I also thought the idea in the past, and this wouldn't happen because of money, but
I would take the games away?
Yeah, take the games away. 65 to 70 games instead of 82. We don't need 82 games.
You don't. And here's the other thing. Has the awards, right? You got to play, 55 or 65 games, whatever it is?
Yeah, I think it's 65.
I think it's 65 too. Has that really changed that much of this issue? People thought, these guys are now easily going to clear that number because they're going to want the awards. It really hasn't altered load management. And I appreciate the commissioner trying to at least attempt to fix the problem. But it's so the toothpaste is already out of the tube. And once the toothpaste is out of the tube, it is very tough to get it back in the tube. So I'm with you, Stu. I think the better thing would be cutting down the games. But still, they're not going to do that because of the money part of it. And truncating the games in terms of minutes, I don't think does enough to get a player, for example, like Joel Embiid, hey, you're going to go play in 10 more games a season. Just throwing someone out there that's been synonymous with load management. All righty, Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll wrap up the show next. We'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio with the news brief. You will hear from Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, and also John Calipari in our news brief today. Some interesting cuts there. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Notre Dame has Al Golden's replacement, hiring Chris Ash. The former Rutgers head coach comes with significant experience, also having served as the DC at Texas, Ohio State, and Arkansas. The Cavaliers and Thunder have been the NBA's best teams. Both have 37 wins. Both are in action coming off wins. And Cleveland takes on the Heat in Miami after halting a 3-game slide, their longest of the season. While the Thunder open their mini road trip with a win in Portland, head coach Mark Daigneault is happy for a few days off in San Francisco before tonight's game against the Warriors.
Great for rest and great for practice. I mean, we had probably as punchy of a practice today as we've had in a long time just because of the schedule. So we like to get in the recovery, guys that are a little banged up, they can get some gas back in the tank. And then obviously we get some work in as well.
The Knicks go for their 5th straight against Denver, while the Hawks, fighting to get into the playoff picture, currently in the play-in scenario, have lost Jalen Johnson for the season. The 2021 first-round pick was having a terrific year. He'll undergo shoulder surgery after averaging just under 19 points a game and 10 rebounds, which led the team. And top-ranked Auburn takes the floor tonight at LSU, while veteran infielder Ha-Seong Kim has come to terms with the Rays on a 2-year deal. He is coming off shoulder surgery. I'm Rich Hack.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Rock your body. Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back again.
So I meant to comment on this earlier, and I'll do so now. For a while, I thought the funniest I was hacked moment ever was Jay Williams, where a few years ago, Jay Williams congratulated the Celtics on finally hiring a black coach when they hired Ime Udoka. The problem was they've had many black coaches before in their organization. So Ime Udoka wasn't the first. So I thought Jay Will trying to say that someone would hack him over that was just so not believable. Well, Patrick Mahomes, his father, Pat Mahomes Sr., he on his Twitter account put out after the day after the Bills-Chiefs game, today is a great day not to be from Buffalo. And now Pat Mahomes Sr. is claiming that he was hacked and that he hasn't been on Twitter for years. Like, come on. But what are we doing here? Does anyone actually believe Pat Mahomes Sr., who has been in enough problems as it's been well documented, is going to have his account get hacked, and whoever's hacking his account isn't going to be like selling PlayStations or whatever you see when someone gets hacked or putting out like crazy photos, and they're going to tweet out, today's a great day to not be from Buffalo? You know, you look at Pat Mahomes as a family, how many problems they caused for him. His wife has actually really been not a problem the last 2 years. Like, I don't remember really a negative story about her, but the brother and the father, right, creating issues. It's like, if I was an NFL player, I would tell my family, don't tweet about me. Don't tweet about the opposition. Don't tweet about anything NFL. And you want to post some photos of us? Fine. But don't be a polarizing person here. Don't add more crap onto my plate. That's what I would say. But it's amazing. I got hacked. Today's a great day to not be from Buffalo. Yeah, someone's going to hack you and tweet that out. Come on. It's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Tony in Vegas says, Zach, what did you make of Shawne Merriman saying Russell Wilson's now a backup quarterback and that the Raiders should pursue Sam Darnold over Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins? You could submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. I would personally sign Russell Wilson. I think it's tough for. I don't know how or when Kirk is going to become available, but I would take Russ. Not that I think he's a better quarterback right now over Sam Darnold, but because it's going to be a one-year deal and it's a placeholder. Do I think Sam's going to be their franchise quarterback there? Probably not. Do I think Sam is worth it for a 3 or 4 year deal? Probably not. And also, I still think Sam was a product this year of the Vikings, more so him being really good. And with the Raiders, if you tell me you're bringing in Sam and you have Brock Bowers and then the 6th pick, you're getting another offensive weapon, okay, I'd be more inclined. But it wouldn't shock me if the Raiders use that 6th pick on the defensive side of the ball with some of their issues after you get past, Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins, and Wilkins obviously has to be healthy. So personally, I would go with Russ just on a 1 cheap year deal. All right, let's update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We get to a news brief right now.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Samter's best friend, Mark Davis, on the Raiders hiring Pete Carroll.
I've watched Pete for a number of years. I watched him at USC. And where I really watched him was when he was at Seattle and competing with the 49ers. And the Niners were the bully on the block. And Seattle actually was one of the one teams that figured out how to beat him and beat him pretty damn good. So I was impressed with Pete's, again, he brings up the word competitiveness. And I think that shows throughout his career. And he's a football guy. He loves football. And he wanted to be a Raider.
Mark, how have you changed over your process as an owner?
Well, every day you learn. And you just try to learn from things, and that's what you do.
Did you think you had Ben Johnson?
No, we didn't think we had Ben Johnson. We never made an offer to Ben Johnson, and he's a Chicago Bear.
I think Mark hit the nail on the head earlier in that conversation where you hear about what Pete Carroll's all about, and you don't at least have to be worried about the head coach with the Raiders. It may not work because they don't have a lot of talent, but you at least know you have a consummate professional and a really damn good coach in Pete Carroll, who will one day call Canton, Ohio home. Here is Mark Davis on the importance of bringing in Tom Brady as a minority owner.
Bringing in Tom Brady was bringing in somebody that was on the football side that I had been lacking having here at the organization. Back in, I guess it was 18, with John Gruden. He was somebody that I brought in and really expected to be that person on the football side that would bring stability to the organization. He had a 10-year contract and all that, and his head was chopped off. And we were put in a really bad position as an organization.
That's interesting wording, Stu. His head was chopped off. Now, we know those emails, right, were leaked. And there's been a lot of thoughts about why those emails were leaked. But the emails were still the emails. So that seems as if Mark Davis thinks there was a little sabotage job right here with the Raiders, right?
Yes, that was my first thought when I heard that as well. Absolutely.
And I didn't think you would hear that from an NFL owner.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. And I think that's the most we've heard an NFL owner like really push back since Robert Kraft landed during the whole Deflategate stuff and was demanding an apology from Roger Goodell if the investigation went the way that he thought it was going to go. Let's go to DK Metcalf. Well, actually, Jim Irsay, too. He was also someone when it was the Daniel Snyder thing, he kind of started going after Daniel Snyder, too. That was very un-ownerly-like, if we're going to use that as a word. Here's DK Metcalf on Casuals with Katie Nolan has a podcast now? I haven't heard from her in a while. Here is DK Metcalf if he wants to play in New England.
No.
What? You couldn't see yourself ever living in Massachusetts?
Look at how long it's taking you to say the word.
No.
No, it's not a desirable place in my opinion. I said great organization.
Yes, of course.
Great organization.
Some may say the best.
Jeez. That's a knife to the heart by DK Metcalf. Alrighty, we're on to T. Higgins. I didn't want you anyway. I wanted you if you're interested in DK Metcalf, you can come join us. Deebo Samuel, my pal, Cleats and Convos podcast via Bleacher Report. That's a good question. Who's he rooting for in the Super Bowl?
I got love-hate for both. But, I got all love for my brother, A.J. Brown over there, so I definitely want to see him win. I definitely don't want to see Mahomes get the third one. So, yeah, I'm rocking with A.J. and Saquon with this one for sure.
I get the A.J. Brown relationship, but come on. You went after the Eagles. Went after them. And then it was brought back up on this show and you hung up on us. And now you're rooting for the Eagles because the Chiefs beat you twice in the big game. I'm actually surprised he answered the question. I don't know if I'm more surprised at the answer or the fact that he actually answered the question. But yeah, who would you be rooting for, Stu, in that spot? You're Deebo Samuel. You have beef with the Eagles. And the Chiefs beat you twice in the big game. Who are you rooting for?
I feel like his beef with the Eagles was... It was such a beef that to the point where I know the Chiefs beat them twice, but I feel
Fletcher Cox hates his guts.
Yeah.
Like, Fletcher Cox told us at the Super Bowl, like, when I asked about Deebo off the air, he goes, oh, man, you really tried to get me with that Deebo stuff. And then after they lost last year, Fletcher Cox is like, I have a ring, you don't. Basically, like, suck it, is pretty much what Fletcher Cox said.
Yeah, I'm shocked he said Philly.
Which one would you say if you were him?
I would say the Chiefs.
Samter, what would you say?
He hates them both, right? It's kind of like youth Ryan Dane, James Franklin. You hate them both. You don't want to see any of them win. Yeah. He wants it to end in a tie.
But who would you root for?
I guess the Eagles, NFC love. I don't know. He hates them both.
I feel like, does that even exist? NFC love? Yeah, I think he has to root for the Chiefs. I do, but he said the Eagles, and that's him. That was startling. I will say that. Here is Amon-Ra St. Brown in the St. Brown podcast finding out that Antoine Randall was leaving the Lions to go to the Bears.
Antoine Randall, I don't know if you know this, our receiver coach, is from Chicago. So I was like, maybe he's going to go with him. So I hit the group chat, I go, L. Dot. Ain't you from Chicago, question mark? Sent that. Next one. You follow him bang, question mark? Literally, I sent that at 6:17 p.m. 2 minutes later, I get a call from him. What the I answer. He said, what's up, man? He goes, hey, man, how'd you know? Did that get leaked? I said, nah, I was just messing around. Like, I was just asking. He goes, yeah, man. I'm going to end up taking that job.
That's kind of crazy. You guys just messing around in your group chat. Oh, you leaving? How'd you know? I actually am leaving. Not that there's any regret on sending that message from Amon-Ra St. Brown, but when was Antoine Randall going to tell Amon-Ra St. Brown? Something to think about. Alrighty. That will do it for News Brief. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. Let me just say one thing. Because Samter brought up Ryan Day. Ryan Day, I actually have a new level of respect for him. Oh. Just in terms of, I saw a Michigan fan went up to him the other night as he was walking into Smith & Malinsky's and was like, hey, can I take a picture? He had a video. He's like, 4-0 up against Ohio State. Extend them. And like, if that was me and I just won a national championship, and I know that Michigan owns you, but you get got like that, if Ryan Day punched that fan in the face, I would have had no problem with it. The fact he just smiled and walked away, it's a new level of respect for Ryan Day. That's as far as I'm going to go on that one. All right, that will do it for the Zach Gelb Show, the Infinity Sports Network. Talk to you tomorrow, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. Big thanks to Evan Washburn. Big thanks to Ryan Hickey, Wyndham Clark for joining us, Shawne Merriman as well, Samter Stu. Thank you as always. Act as well, and each and every one of you. However you listen to this show, we do appreciate you. We out. We'll talk to you tomorrow, everybody. Bye-bye. Peace.